Chapter 6052. Senior brother Lin, the Zhou family is one of the aristocratic families on the North Island. Their disciples are distributed among the 3 pavilions. They are considered a relatively good family on the North Island. Their ancestral home is in Sunset Hill, north of the island. The Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple did not dare to be negligent and pointed out the direction to Lin Yi. Lin Yi knew that the Zhou family was just an ordinary aristocratic family. The so-called relatively good family from the Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple's mouth could not be compared to the hidden ancient aristocratic family. Even if it was an ancient aristocratic family, if they dared to touch Lin Yi's little brother like this, they would not be able to live in peace, let alone an ordinary aristocratic family. Was Li Jingming taken away by someone from the Zhou family? Did he go to Sunset Hill or somewhere else? Lin Yi looked coldly in the direction of Sunset Hill to determine Li Jingming's whereabouts. Senior brother Lin, I only saw the Zhou family take senior brother Li away. I really don't know where he was taken. The ones who took senior brother Li should be Zhou Nianqing and a few guards from the Zhou family. The Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple, who had calmed down, looked a little ashamed. In fact, he did not dare to get too close to the Zhou family and rushed back to report the news. He really did not know where Li Jingming was taken. It doesn't matter. We will look one place at a time. Is there any property of the Zhou family near the place where Li Jingming was taken? Lin Yi originally wanted to go to Sunset Hill directly, but after thinking about it, he felt that Li Jingming might not have been taken to Sunset Hill. The matter of settling accounts could be delayed. The urgent matter was to rescue Li Jingming. Yes, there is a restaurant there. It is the property of the Zhou family. Senior brother Li is likely to be taken to the restaurant. The Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple nodded immediately. He was very familiar with the area, so there was no need to think about it. Thank you, junior brother. Here is a small gift for you. Lin Yi casually tossed a jade bottle to the Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple, then turned to Languza, signaling him to follow. The disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion, who had just caught the jade bottle, raised his head and saw that Lin Yi and Languza had already disappeared on the spot like ghosts. When he looked again, they had already appeared hundreds of meters away. While admiring Lin Yi and Languza in his heart, he opened the jade bottle and took a look. Immediately, he was wild with joy. There were actually 3 top-grade gold cores inside, just enough for him to advance to Gold Core Paragon. Senior brother Lin Yi's forthright and generous reputation was indeed well-deserved. In fact, for Lin Yi, the current gold core was not worth mentioning at all. With the sea beast's Niden as the main material, it was too easy to refine a gold core. So what if he gave a few as a thank you gift? Lin Yi was so anxious that he almost used the lightning evasion technique. If it were not for the fact that he might have to fight a big battle later and needed enough physical strength, he would really not hold back to buy time. Even so, the 2 of them still arrived at the market area in the shortest time possible. As soon as they entered the area, Lin Yi's divine sense swept out without any scruples and instantly found the location of Zhou Xiang restaurant. There! Lin Yi shouted in a low voice and took the lead to change direction. Languza did not say a word and followed closely behind Lin Yi. After a few breaths, Lin Yi and Languza stood outside the entrance of Zhou Xiang restaurant. Although the location was not bad, it was not a particularly prosperous area. From this, it could be seen that the Zhou family's status in the North Island was indeed ordinary. Boss, leave it to me. Languza volunteered. This time, it was not a fight for the sake of fighting. Li Jingming was caught, and this guy was really angry. Lin Yi didn't say anything, only nodding slightly. Languza immediately took a step forward, swinging his fist and slamming the door of the restaurant. A waiter on the other side had wanted to come out and greet him with a smile, but his face paled instantly, screaming as he ran back into the restaurant. With a loud bang, the door of Zhou Xiang restaurant was completely broken. Languza had held back, otherwise the waiter would not have been able to escape at all. Lin Yi's divine awareness broke through the gap of the restriction that Languza had blasted, and crazily searched for traces of Li Jingming in the restaurant. The restriction on divine awareness in this restaurant was actually not strong. Without Languza's destruction, Lin Yi could tear the restriction with his divine awareness, so the internal obstacles were instantly broken by him. The restaurant also reacted very quickly. Within 2 or 3 breaths after the door was broken, 5 or 6 cultivators had rushed out. Unfortunately, the strongest one was only at the middle stage of Yuanying realm, and the rest were at the gold core realm. Such ant-like existences were useless no matter how many came. As for the diners in the restaurant, they did not panic, but just avoided the range of the door, retreated to the corner, and looked out curiously. Probably they had never seen such a situation of fighting at the door, and they felt it was very fresh in their hearts. If he dared to make a move in this area, he would definitely be breaking the rules of the North Island. Most of these onlookers were thinking that even if Languza had a powerful background, it would be very difficult for him to settle this peacefully. The people from the law enforcement hall would arrive in no time, and there would not be any danger for him to stay here. Bold madman, how dare you behave atrociously in our restaurant? Don't you know what this place is? The middle stage Yuanying realm cultivator was ready to fight as soon as he came out, but after seeing Languza and Lin Yi, his heart quivered, and immediately suppressed the idea of fighting, and turned into a fierce but cowardly shout. It was not that this guy saw the power of Lin Yi and Lin Yi, but that this guy could not see the power of the 2 young people in front of him at all. Under normal circumstances, even if it was a master in the early stage of profound ascension, he could clearly distinguish it at a glance. Could it be that these 2 people were far beyond the early stage of profound ascension? He did not think that Lin Yi and Lin Yi were ordinary people. Just Languza's punch that broke the door and destroyed the hidden restriction was definitely not something that could be done easily. Are you King stupid? I don't know what kind of place this is, would I come to trouble you? Languza reached out and grabbed the neck of the middle stage Yuanying realm cultivator, lifted him up like a chicken, and sprayed a mouthful of saliva on the poor guy's face. The middle stage Yuanying realm cultivator's face suddenly turned red, his legs kicked powerlessly, and his heart was already cold. These 2 people were really masters far beyond his perception range. Even in the Zhou family, there were not many such strong people. The rest of the gold core stage cultivators were completely scared, and they stood there like cicadas in winter. They didn't know what to do. The strongest among them didn't even have the ability to resist, and was so casually carried. If it was anyone else, wouldn't they be crushed to death with a finger? Lin Yi's face was as cold as frost. He glanced at those guys and asked coldly, "Where is Zhou Nianqing?" Chapter 60-53. The cultivators looked at each other with trepidation, and no one had the courage to speak first. Zhou Nianqing's status in the Zhou family was not low. Whoever dared to betray him would never have a good result. The boss asks, "You don't answer, what are you looking at?" Languza screamed and used a lot of strength in his hand. The neck of the Yuanying middle stage who was pinched was suddenly broken, and he died with extreme suffocation. In fact, this guy wanted to answer Lin Yi's question. In the current situation, he could save his life. How could he care about the accounts after the fall? But Languza pinched him so that he couldn't even speak. He didn't have a chance to surrender. In the end, he was killed by Languza. This death was really unjust. 2 seniors, Steward Zhou didn't come to the restaurant. We really don't know where he is. If the 2 seniors want to find him, it is better to go to Luoxia Hill. A Jidan stage cultivator could no longer care about anything else and quickly stood up to answer Lin Yi's question. The death of the Yuanying middle stage was too strong for them. In the choice of dying now or dying later, this guy did not hesitate to choose the latter. With someone taking the lead, the others suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and immediately nodded in agreement. Anyway, they had to send the 2 gods of death away. As for who would be unlucky after going to Luoxia Hill, it was none of their business. Lin Yi was secretly disappointed. Zhou Nianqing was not here. Li Jingming would definitely not be here. It seemed that he should have gone to Luoxia Hill first. He only hoped that Li Jingming would be fine for the time being. The only reason that could make Lin Yi feel at ease was that Zhou Nianqing took away Li Jingming. At least for a short time, he would not kill him. Otherwise, there would be no need to be so troublesome. But it was difficult to guarantee that this guy would not kill Li Jingming. Languza, let's go to Luoxia Hill. Lin Yi turned and walked away. Now time is life. In case something happened to Li Jingming, it would be too late to regret. Stop right there. After breaking the doors of our Zhou Xiang restaurant and killing our people, you think you can just leave like that? A loud shout suddenly rang out, and at the same time, an astonishing aura burst out. Peak middle stage profound ascension. Along with this shout, a violent attack blasted towards Lin Yi's back. Perhaps the guy who came out felt that Lin Yi was easier to deal with, so he didn't choose to attack Languza. Lin Yi didn't want to pay attention to this guy at all. Right now, it was more important to save Li Jingming. He was only at the peak of the profound ascension middle stage, and he would barely be able to raise his level. But Languza couldn't stand it. What kind of thing was this? It actually dared to sneak attack boss from behind. It simply didn't know how to write the word death. In a flash, Languza appeared in front of the peak profound ascension middle stage cultivator who had just come out. The sneak attack on Lin Yi had long been dispersed by him, and with a casual stretch of his hand, he grabbed the guy's neck and lifted him up. Are you F** king courting death? You dare to sneak attack my boss, who do you think you are? Languza lifted the peak profound ascension middle stage cultivator and shook him with all his might. The Oris core stage fellows on the side were dumbfounded once again, afraid to see another expert with his neck broken. This was a peak profound ascension middle stage expert. But why was it no different from the nascent soul middle stage expert just now? And he was even grabbed by the neck with a single slap. Just what kind of strength did this big man with blue and golden hair have? Languza, don't waste time. Hurry up and kill him. Go to Sunset Hill and save him. Lin Yi coldly looked at the peak profound ascension middle stage cultivator in Languza's hand. This was a short and fat old man with a round face and no beard. He seemed to be a member of the Zhou clan. For an enemy who dared to sneak attack him, Lin Yi didn't have any mercy. Okay, boss. Languza agreed, and was about to crush this idiot old man who thought he was very strong. Stop. The law enforcement hall is here. Everyone stop. Suddenly, there were 5 figures approaching quickly from afar. Before they arrived, their voices had already been heard from afar. Languza didn't care whether it was the law enforcement hall or the commandment hall. If it was cotton candy, it would still be able to arouse his interest. Anyway, the boss's words were everything. Languza, stop for a moment. Lin Yi frowned slightly. At the last moment, he stopped Languza from killing him. It didn't matter to others, but he still had to give face to the law enforcement hall. After all, this was Ram Jie's territory. Lin Yi didn't want to make things too unpleasant with this guy. No matter what, he was someone that Shanghai Tianhua valued. Languza's fingers had almost sunk into the short and fat old man's neck. If Lin Yi was a moment slower, the old man would be dead. How dare you? You dare to commit murder in front of our law enforcement hall? Put shopkeeper Zhou down immediately and follow us to the law enforcement hall to be punished. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. As soon as the 5 law enforcement hall people came over, the leader roared and pointed his weapon at Lin Yi and Languza. Although none of the 5 of them could compare to the short and fat old man carried by Languza, as a member of the law enforcement hall, they naturally had a trump card to face the strong. Lin Yi's face sank. Although these 5 people were performing their duties, this attitude made him feel very uncomfortable. The 5 people stood in a specific position, forming a simple trap and kill array, surrounding Lin Yi and Zhou Tianhua. At the same time, the weapons in their hands had a faint effect of suppressing strength. If Lin Yi was only an ordinary profound ascension late stage peak, he might be suppressed to around the profound ascension early stage. The law enforcement hall really had some tricks up their sleeves. Unfortunately, they encountered Lin Yi and Languza. These methods did not have any effect at all. Languza was a mutated sea serpent at the opening mountain period, and Lin Yi was no ordinary practitioner at the peak of the late stage of mystic ascension either. His divine sense only needed to sweep slightly, and he was able to completely remove that suppressive power. Not even a trace of it remained. Shopkeeper Zhou, are you okay? Don't worry, we will save you right away. The leading law enforcement hall deacon comforted the short and fat old man loudly, and then turned to Lin Yi and Languza and shouted, still not giving up, do you want to defy the law enforcement hall? I will count to 3, if you don't let him go, you will be killed without mercy. How impressive. The law enforcement hall is really amazing. I want to ask, before my friend was injured and taken away by Zhou Nianqing of the Zhou family, where was your law enforcement hall? Lin Yi sneered and looked at the law enforcement hall deacon with an unkind expression. Chapter 60-54. We don't know what you're talking about. We'll investigate it later. Now you're picking a quarrel. Don't force us to take action. The deacon softened a little. Obviously, he knew about Li Jingming, so he felt a little guilty when he spoke. Lin Yi's eyes turned cold. The people of the law enforcement hall knew that Li Jingming was injured and taken away, but they didn't show up to stop it. Did they collude with the Zhou family? Languza, let's go. Take the short fat man with us. With suspicion in his heart, Lin Yi didn't want to talk nonsense with these people of the law enforcement hall. He changed his mind and didn't kill the short fat old man. Instead, he took him as a hostage, thinking that maybe he could exchange him for Li Jingming. Since this short and stout old man was the shopkeeper of Zhou Xiang restaurant and his surname was Zhou, he should be an important member of the Zhou clan. The value of exchanging him for Li Jingming was enough. After rescuing Li Jingming, it wouldn't be too late to settle the score with the Zhou clan. How dare you? How dare you be so arrogant in front of the law enforcement hall? Did I let you go? Today, you can only go to the prison of the law enforcement hall. Follow us. Once you resist, we'll kill you. The deacon of the law enforcement hall roared angrily. It was the first time for him to be ignored like this. In the North Island, the law enforcement hall was a very aloof existence, and the top management of the 3 pavilions would not be so rude. I'm going to save people. This should be the business of the law enforcement hall, but now you want me to do it. When it's over, I'll go to Ram Jia and ask him if the law enforcement hall has changed its surname to Zhou. Lin Yi snorted and turned to leave. If these guys dared to take action, he was not afraid that Ram Jia would turn against him. Languza naturally carried the short fat old man and followed behind Lin Yi. At the same time, he stared at the 5 people of the law enforcement hall with an unkind face. The leading law enforcement hall deacon felt a chill in his heart. He did have dealings with the Zhou family, and he had received a lot of benefits from them. If this matter was reported to the higher-ups, the result would be unpredictable. If this guy knew Lin Yi, he wouldn't be so partial to the Zhou family. However, Lin Yi had been away for 2 or 3 years. Although he was famous in the North Island, not many people really knew him. These people from the law enforcement hall didn't know Lin Yi. Because of this, they made the worst decision, to attack and capture Lin Yi. The leading law enforcement hall deacon didn't know whether Lin Yi really knew Ram Jia or not. Anyway, as long as he brought Ram Jia into the law enforcement hall, he could decide how to deal with Ram Jia later. Therefore, he directly launched an attack on Lin Yi without even greeting him, let alone counting to 3. At this time, the 5 people were in a linked formation. After the leader launched an attack, the remaining 4 people would naturally cooperate to attack. 5 genuine qi intertwined to form a genuine qi net, falling directly on Lin Yi. They also saw that between Lin Yi and Languza, Languza was just a follower, so as long as they could control Lin Yi, they could easily win. Lin Yi had expected their attack. With a shake of his body, he turned back and rushed into the encirclement of the 5 people. His raging fire 8 diagrams palm suddenly shot out. To be honest, these 5 guys from the law enforcement hall were somewhat powerful when they joined forces. But in the eyes of Lin Yi, it was nothing. One raging fire 8 diagrams palm was enough to solve the problem. The net-like attack formed by the 5 streaks of true qi was swept away by the raging flames, not even a trace of residue was left. Not only that, the deacon at the front was also hit in the chest, and a crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. This guy was directly sent flying, and the people behind him were sent flying back. The raging flame aftermath did not target anyone. But once the formation was broken, the remaining 3 people couldn't even withstand this degree of aftermath. They all spat out a mouthful of blood, staggered a few steps back, and then collapsed to the ground. "I'll spare your lives first. We'll settle the accounts later." Lin Yi withdrew his attack and retreated. After leaving a cold sentence, he quickly swept towards the sunset hill with Languza, leaving behind horrified gazes as they watched the 2 of them disappear into the distance in awe. The surrounding onlookers were all wondering who this ruthless man was. He even dared to beat the people of the law enforcement hall. Although he didn't kill a single one of them, the deacon who led the group was only left with his last breath. Who knew when he would die? After someone who knew Lin Yi revealed his identity, everyone suddenly felt that this matter was very normal. After all, he could become a legendary figure of the younger generation. He was definitely not a simple person. Then everyone felt that the Zhou family of the Sunset Hill seemed to be unlucky. Lin Yi and Languza stood outside the gate of the Zhou family. They also felt that the Zhou family would be very unlucky today. No matter why they injured and captured Li Jingming, they wouldn't be able to get away with it easily today. The ancient aristocratic families in the North Island must have strong masters at the sea-splitting stage, and the second level also had masters at the earth-opening stage. As for the Zhou family, it was just an ordinary aristocratic family. They only relied on many disciples in the 3 pavilions. The real masters were at most at the mountain opening stage. For Lin Yi, the mountain opening stage was really no match for him. If the Zhou family didn't have an earth-opening stage, Languza alone was enough to wipe out the Zhou family. Not to mention there were 2 thugs at the mountain opening stage on the beach, waiting for Lin Yi to assign tasks to them so that they could fight for the opportunity to detoxify the poison as soon as possible. "Boss, shall we fight our way in? Or shall we call them out here?" Languza was still carrying the short and fat old shopkeeper Zhou. This time, he was afraid that he would accidentally kill him again, so he was very careful to grab his collar, so that the old man had a chance to breathe. However, the short and fat old man's cultivation was completely sealed, so he couldn't even speak, let alone resist. Lin Yi's divine sense completely enveloped the sunset mound and carefully observed it. The Zhou family's villa had a defense formation, but the level was not high. It was only a level 5 defense formation. Lin Yi's formation skills had improved again. Although he could only arrange a level 3 formation, he could also see through a level 5 formation. It was a little difficult to break the formation, but he could barely get in and out. It's too passive to wait for them to come out. Let's fight our way in. Lin Yi smiled faintly. As long as he could go in, it was naturally safer to go in and save people. Anyway, it was only a level 5 formation, which couldn't trap them. Okay. Boss, just watch me. Languza suddenly looked happy. He liked this kind of thing the most. In addition, there was the factor of saving Li Jingming. This guy was definitely 100 times more spirited. He strode to the gate of the Zhou family's villa. Chapter 6055. In fact, at this time, the report of the incident at Zhou Xiang restaurant was about to arrive. However, Lin Yi and Zhou Xiang were too fast. They were completely ahead of the Zhou clan's defenses. Languza couldn't be bothered with such a small character. He casually punched the door and smashed it into pieces. The Zhou clan's defensive spirit array was usually at its lowest consumption. As the entrance and exit, the door was in a defenseless state before it was fully opened. Therefore, Languza was able to easily destroy it. Following the sound of the alarm, a layer of light flashed on the dilapidated door. Immediately, a faint layer of light enveloped the entire manor. The defensive spirit array that was at its lowest consumption state was instantly activated. Languza's second punch landed on the faint layer of light. It created ripples, but it couldn't cause any damage to the manor behind the light layer. Languza, hit here. Lin Yi called out. A lightning arc instantly appeared on a point on the light layer. Languza didn't say anything. He punched with all his strength and followed the lightning arc. After a single punch, a crack as tall as a person appeared. "Boss, you're really amazing. You found the entrance so quickly." Languza laughed and praised. Then, he carried shopkeeper Zhou and entered the crack. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything as he followed them in. This defensive spirit array had just been activated to its full capacity. The energy hadn't been stable yet. Therefore, the entrance was easily opened. After it stabilized, Languza would need to punch at least 5 or 6 times in order to achieve the same effect. The Zhou clan member who had fallen behind the dilapidated door was shocked. He didn't expect that the defensive spirit array wouldn't be able to stop the intruders for even a breath's time. Although there were many spirit arrays behind the door, since the defensive spirit array couldn't stop the intruders, the spirit array inside was at most of the same grade. It would be very difficult to stop the 2 intruders. Seeing that the situation was far from good, this fellow immediately crawled up and ran inside without a care for his life. He was probably going to inform the Zhou clan to prepare their strongest defensive force, right? Lin Yi did not care about such a small fry. He overtook Languza from behind and led the way. After a few turns, they successfully walked out of the first defensive formation and entered the gates of the Zhou clan's manor house. Of course, the gates no longer existed. "Boss, the Zhou family's house is quite beautiful. Why don't we snatch it and give it to brother Li Jingming to help him calm down? What do you think?" As soon as Languza entered the restaurant, he planned to give this place to Li Jingming. In the future, it would be natural for him to come over and freeload for food. He could enjoy the scenery and the delicacies. What a joy! Let's save Li Jingming first. Lin Yi did not expect this fellow to have such thoughts. His divine sense was already constantly breaking through the restrictions that restricted his search. He began to forcibly search for Li Jingming's whereabouts. However, before he could find Li Jingming, he discovered that more than a dozen experts from the Zhou clan had already gathered and were rushing in this direction. To be exact, the 2 sides were about to meet in this large courtyard. "Boss, there are quite a lot of these fellows, but they are all trash. You can go find brother Li Jingming. Leave this trash to me, Languza, to clean up." Languza also discovered these people coming over. He looked slightly excited. Fighting was as fascinating as eating delicious food. If he could eat and fight at the same time, that would definitely be the most wonderful thing in the world. The only thing that could be more wonderful than this was perhaps wearing super handsome clothes and fighting while eating delicious food. Apart from this, there was nothing else. Lin Yi stopped in his tracks and waved his hand to signal Languza not to speak. Then, he looked at the 13 people approaching quickly. "These 2 friends, why did you break my Zhou clan's mountain gate and capture our restaurant's shopkeeper? Did we offend you in some way?" The old man in front had a gloomy expression, but he still forced a smile and asked politely. Among the 13 people, besides the old man who spoke, who was at the peak of the early mountain opening stage, there was also a middle-aged woman who was also at the early mountain opening stage. The rest, without exception, were all profound ascension stage and nascent soul stage cultivators. This kind of strength was not bad outside, but Lin Yi did not even have the interest to fight. They were really too weak. Only Languza could even fight against profound stage opponents. Nascent soul stage and profound ascension stage were no problem at all. "Who is Zhou Nianqing? He captured my brother Li Jingming. Hand him over immediately, and I can return this short and fat old man to you." As long as you give reasonable compensation, I will not pursue your fault. Lin Yi put his hands behind his back and stood upright. He looked at them indifferently and gave them a chance to live. The old man's expression darkened. He sneered, "So you are the accomplices of the Qiushui Villa's remnants. Since that is the case, don't leave today. Go and accompany your brother." Before he finished speaking, the formation in the villa started to activate. There was a level 5 trap and kill formation in the courtyard. The reason why the Zhou clan hurried over was to stop Lin Yi and Zhou Nianqing here so that they could use the trap and kill formation to deal with them. Although Lin Yi had shown his decent formation skills when he entered the defense formation, this level 5 trap and kill formation was not ordinary. As long as they could trap them for a few breaths of time, the 13 of them would definitely be able to kill the 2 of them. At first, the old man of the Zhou clan wanted to probe Lin Yi's background, so he was polite to him. Now that he knew that Lin Yi was Li Jingming's accomplices, he was not interested in pretending. When the trap and kill formation was activated, the 13 experts of the Zhou clan also attacked together. Lin Yi sneered. If he was alone, it would be difficult to find a way out of the level 5 trap and kill formation quickly and safely. But with the ghost, an Earth-level formation master, the level 5 formation was not worth mentioning at all. When the 13 people of the Zhou clan launched the formation, Lin Yi threw out several ordinary formation flags to delay the activation of the level 5 trap and kill formation for a while. If he had more advanced formation flags, he could even use this formation to attack the Zhou clan under the guidance of the ghost. It was a pity that Lin Yi only had the ordinary formation flags he bought. When he came to the North Island to get the ghost speed wings next time, it seemed that he had to ask the King of Rags to refine some advanced formation flags for backup. "Languza, do it!" Lin Yi shouted in a low voice and rushed to the Zhou clan first. He wanted to take them down before the formation was activated. Chapter 6056. Hearing Lin Yi's call, Languza also rushed forward and threw shopkeeper Zhou as a weapon towards the enemy. Thinking about how he carried the shopkeeper all the way here but didn't get to use it, Languza felt a bit unlucky. Not good. The formation isn't activated, retreat. The old man who spoke before realized that something was wrong and immediately turned around to retreat. However, the only one who could keep up with his speed was the middle-aged woman at the early mountain opening stage. The other 11 profound ascending stage and nascent soul stage cultivators of the Zhou clan had already rushed forward. It was too late for them to retreat. Lin Yi and Languza didn't use any profound martial skills at all. They just used simple punches and kicks. In the blink of an eye, they had taken down all 11 profound ascending stage cultivators. Including shopkeeper Zhou, 12 people were lying on the ground. There was no one left alive. Since Lin Yi could say that they were the remnants of the Qiushui villa, what was there to be polite about? After today, the Zhou clan would completely disappear. The remaining old man and middle-aged woman from the Zhou clan felt cold. They knew their own strength very well. If they wanted to kill 12 profound ascending stage and nascent soul stage cultivators, they would at least need to use martial skills. It would definitely be impossible for them to kill 12 profound ascending stage and nascent soul stage cultivators as easily as Lin Yi and Languza. In other words, the 2 of them staying here was probably just to make the other party slightly more serious. The speed at which they died shouldn't be much slower than the 12 clan members. With this realization, the 2 of them madly used their Jin Qi. Even if it would leave behind a huge hidden danger, they didn't care. Right now, as long as they could escape from this courtyard, they might be able to save their lives. However, the next moment, the 2 mountain opening stage cultivators from the Zhou clan fell into the abyss of despair. This was because Lin Yi had already appeared in front of them like a ghost and was looking at them mockingly. The old man in front made up his mind and used his strongest martial skill to try and force Lin Yi to retreat. No matter what, he had to open up a path to escape. Although the middle-aged woman was frightened, she hesitated for a moment and quickly cooperated with the old man's attack. "Have you all forgotten that I'm here? How can you find my boss for something like a fight? Languza suddenly appeared between the two of them. He chuckled softly and spread his hands apart. The two men from the Zhou family felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Lin Yi and Languza's speed was so astonishing that even if they wanted to escape, they wouldn't be able to outrun the two of them. The only way to survive was to kill one of them first, then deal with the other. The old man's attack abruptly changed its direction and changed its target to Languza. The middle-aged woman, however, was unable to immediately understand his intentions. She dodged Languza's palm while continuing to attack Lin Yi. Languza stretched out his hands and made a circle. The two men's attacks suddenly lost their aim. They were involuntarily pulled by an invisible force and collided together in the air. Lin Yi stood motionless in front. The aftermath of those attacks didn't affect him at all. After Languza dealt with these attacks, he easily controlled the two men with one hand. "Boss, do you want to kill these two?" Languza grabbed the two men's necks and easily carried them in front of Lin Yi. If it wasn't for the emergency treatment of Li Jingming, this guy would have been able to deal with them for a long time. But now, he didn't have the slightest bit of sloppiness. Lin Yi was quite satisfied with this. "Where are Zhou Nianqing and Li Jingming? Tell me and I will let the women and children of the Zhou family live. If you don't tell me, the Zhou family will be destroyed." Lin Yi's face was extremely cold. Although he didn't mean to kill the old, the weak, the women and the children, it was still effective to scare the two men. As expected, the old man and the middle-aged woman's faces changed greatly. Languza loosened his hands so that they could speak. "You can't do this. This is the North Island. The law enforcement hall will never agree to kill the whole family." As soon as the old man caught his breath, he immediately shouted loudly. Unfortunately, this was not the answer Lin Yi wanted to hear. A palm with a residual shadow slapped the old man's face, making a clear slap. Lin Yi didn't use true qi, but the ordinary force knocked out two of the old man's teeth, and half of his face quickly became red and swollen. "My patience is limited. Don't talk nonsense with me." Lin Yi withdrew his palm and turned to the middle-aged woman with cold eyes. "You tell me. Otherwise, the Zhou family will be the next Qiushui villa." The middle-aged woman couldn't help shivering and hurriedly said, "The Zhou family has nothing to do with the Qiushui villa. You can't vent your anger on the Zhou family." Lin Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. His eyes pierced the middle-aged woman's heart like needles. She just realized that she still seemed to be talking nonsense and didn't directly answer Lin Yi's question. The reason why he didn't get slapped like the old man was probably that Lin Yi was not used to hitting women, but this kind of preferential treatment obviously couldn't last long. Zhou Nianqing didn't return to the Zhou family. He just sent someone to send a message, saying that he caught the fish that escaped the net of Qiushui villa. What I said is true. It's just a waste of time if you want to find the person you want to find here. So my boss asked you, where on earth did that bastard Zhou Nianqing take my brother? If you say another word of nonsense, do you believe that I won't tear you apart? Languza roared and used the old man's head to hit the middle-aged woman's head. These two people's cultivation was sealed, and their bodies were only a bit stronger than ordinary people. After being hit by Languza, they immediately felt dizzy and almost fainted. "Languza, be gentle. I still have questions to ask." Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fortunately, this guy held back his strength. Otherwise, these two people's heads would have exploded. Languza smiled embarrassedly and quickly shook his arms a few times to wake the two people up as soon as possible. "I don't have time to beat around the bush with you. The next sentence is not the answer I want. The Zhou family will be destroyed, and I will search your souls." Lin Yi returned to his cold tone and raised his hand to point between the middle-aged woman's eyebrows. The devouring power of the primordial spirit was not released, but it was enough to make the woman feel that her primordial spirit was about to leave her body. Was it really the soul-searching technique? Chapter 6057. Zhou Nianqing took the man he caught to the Li family. This really has nothing to do with our Zhou family. It's all Zhou Nianqing's doing. Senior, please let us live. The middle-aged woman was sweating like rain and her lips were trembling, but she did not dare to fight. As for saying that it had nothing to do with the Zhou family, Lin Yi would not believe it at all. If it really had nothing to do with them, he would not have said the words of the remnants of Qiushui Villa just now. In the massacre of Qiushui Villa, even if the Zhou family was not the main culprit, it must be an accomplice. Which Li family? Where is it? Lin Yi frowned slightly. He had not found Li Jingming in 2 places in a row. A lot of time had been wasted. If it went on like this, it would be difficult to guarantee his safety. Li Shuigao's family in the North Island's Elders' Council. The Li family's villa is in the west of the North Island. Go in that direction and you can see it. The middle-aged woman did not dare to have the slightest neglect. She quickly finished her words and then looked at Lin Yi uneasily, hoping that he could go to the Li family to find trouble and let go of the Zhou family. Languza, destroy the old man and take this woman to the Li family. Lin Yi had no time to delay. The Zhou family must be eliminated, but compared with Li Jingming, it was not a big deal. After rescuing the main person, he would decide how to deal with it. Anyway, the elites of the Zhou family had been wiped out. It didn't matter to deal with them sooner or later. Languza agreed and simply destroyed the old man's cultivation. Then he carried the middle-aged woman and flew to the west of the North Island with Lin Yi. Tell me about the Li family situation. Lin Yi's true chi blocked all the gale in front of him and turned to look at the middle-aged woman in Languza's hand. He took her with him because he wanted to get some information before he arrived at the Li family. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one be invincible. The situation in the North Island was quite complicated. Lin Yi didn't want to know nothing about the enemy, which was not good for rescuing Li Jingming. The middle-aged woman had accepted her fate and answered quite cooperatively. The Li family is a new family that has risen in recent years. The most powerful one is Li Shuigao, the family master. It is said that he has reached the peak of the mountain opening realm or even the early stage of the earth opening realm. He is a very powerful one in the North Island's Elders Club. Lin Yi immediately felt relieved. If it was just this strength, Languza would be able to deal with it. It seemed that rescuing Li Jingming was not as difficult as he had imagined. In particular, this Li family was just a newly risen family. It lacked a deep heritage, and it didn't have an old monster at the sea-splitting stage behind it. It couldn't be considered as terrifying. This Li Shuigao is the mastermind of the extermination case of Qiushui Villa. In fact, many people know about this, but everyone has a tacit understanding. Speaking of which, Li Shuigao is the adopted son of the owner of Qiushui Villa. The owner treated him well in the beginning. I don't know what happened, but later he took people to exterminate Qiushui Villa. The middle-aged woman was very cooperative and told him all these secrets. Maybe she hoped that she could move Lin Yi with this attitude and finally ask for a way out. Li Shuigao is indeed an ungrateful and despicable person. I heard that he is a junior of the family of the wife of the owner of Qiushui Villa. Because his family fell, he came to the wife of the owner of Qiushui Villa. That's why he was adopted and treated as his own son. Who knew that he would bring such a terrible disaster in the end? The middle-aged woman said as she stole a glance at Lin Yi, showing a very sad expression. Lin Yi suddenly understood. Li Jingming's original name was Qiu Jiming, and his enemy was Li Shuigao. Why did he change his surname to Li instead of another surname? It turned out that it wasn't to remember his enemy, but because his mother's surname was Li. Was Li Shuigao already so powerful a dozen years ago? Lin Yi suddenly thought of this problem. If Li Shuigao was already at the mountain opening stage, then it wouldn't be difficult for him to secretly replace Li Jingming's father as the owner of Qiushui Villa. Why did he have to create a scandal of massacring his benefactor's entire family? The middle-aged woman was slightly startled. Her actual age was naturally far from middle-aged. It was just that she was already middle-aged when she could slow down the aging process. So, she really knew a lot about the things that happened a dozen or 2 decades ago. For example, when Qiushui Villa was not destroyed, she just happened to know how strong Li Shuigao was. In fact, at that time, Li Shuigao was just a nobody, and his strength was far from being on par with hers. It was quite a coincidence that she knew of Li Shuigao, so there was no need to mention it. However, in just a few decades, Li Shuigao had turned from an ant that could only look up to her into an expert that she had to look up to. Thinking about it carefully, it was really incredible. At that time, Li Shuigao's strength was only at the early nascent soul stage. He was just a talented young elite. Compared to me, who was at the peak of the late mysterious ascension stage, he was not even worth mentioning. Even in Qiushui Villa, he was not a particularly powerful expert. I just didn't expect him to soar to the sky. Perhaps he had some kind of fortuitous encounter. The middle-aged woman's heart suddenly moved. Could this be the reason why Qiushui Villa was destroyed by Li Shuigao? Why didn't she think about this before? If it wasn't for Lin Yi asking about it today, she still wouldn't have thought of this possibility. Lin Yi was different. He immediately felt that something was wrong. Li Shuigao's sudden increase in strength was probably directly related to the case of Qiushui Villa. Normally, it was impossible to increase one's strength so quickly, especially after reaching the mysterious ascension stage. Li Shuigao went from the nascent soul stage to the peak mountain opening stage and even the early earth opening stage. Compared to Lin Yi, it was as slow as a snail. But compared to this middle-aged woman, it was obvious how terrifying this guy's cultivation speed was. This middle-aged woman was already at the peak of the late mysterious ascension stage at that time. It took her nearly 20 years to break through to the early mountain opening stage. Although her speed was not fast, it was definitely not slow either. But what about Li Shuigao? Haven't you heard about the reason why Qiushui Villa was destroyed? Don't tell me that your Zhou clan had nothing to do with it. Lin Yi glanced at the middle-aged woman. If the Zhou clan had nothing to do with it, they wouldn't be so proactive in helping Li Shuigao catch Li Jingming. The middle-aged woman smiled bitterly and shook her head. She knew that no matter what she said, she wouldn't be able to get rid of the responsibility for the Zhou clan. So she simply admitted, yes, the Zhou clan did participate in the case of Qiushui Villa. But I can swear that we only received an offer that we couldn't refuse. We sent our elites to block the escape route of Qiushui Villa. We didn't participate in the massacre at all. So I really don't know the inside story at all. Chapter 60-58. But Li Shuigao did get the biggest benefit. Not only did his strength soar, but he also became a powerful figure on the North Island. It seemed that he could only figure out the truth when he met the ungrateful man. It's not Li Shuigao. It's a very powerful masked man. We still don't know who the masked man was. The middle-aged woman was helpless. She really didn't know who the masked man was. Otherwise, she would definitely tell Lin Yi in exchange for his favor. Whether she could survive or not depended on her performance at this time. Lin Yi frowned slightly. The first thing he thought of was the people from the center. This kind of secretive style of doing things and the way of controlling and advancing was really like the center. The massacre of Qiushui Villa happened 18 or 19 years ago. Could it be that the center had already made arrangements on the Heaven Stage Island at that time? But it was also possible. According to the time of his master, the center had existed for a long time, but the Central Chamber of Commerce had just risen. Boss, we're almost at the west area of the North Island. Is the Li family located in that villa? Languza interrupted the conversation between Lin Yi and the middle-aged woman and pointed to a large building on the hillside in the distance. That's right, that's the Li clan's manor. Seniors, seeing that I've always been very cooperative and told you everything I know, can you let me live? The middle-aged woman confirmed and then looked at Lin Yi carefully, hoping that he would be kind enough to let her go. Boss, should I kill her or disable her? Languza asked for Lin Yi's opinion, but the guy had no intention of letting the middle-aged woman go. In his opinion, not killing her was already very lenient. First, seal her strength and throw her in a hidden place nearby. We'll talk about other things after we rescue Li Jingming. Lin Yi didn't have the habit of killing women, and she was indeed very cooperative. It would be unreasonable to kill or disable her directly. It was better to put her aside and wait for Li Jingming to decide how to deal with it. With regards to Lin Yi's decision, Languza did not have any objections. He quickly sealed the middle-aged woman's cultivation and casually found a hidden place to throw her there. Lin Yi casually threw out some ordinary array flags and set up the simplest level 1 concealment array formation. This was to prevent any wild beasts from coming out and biting her. After all, she was an expert at the mountain opening stage. If she really died like this, it would be too tragic. After doing all this, the two of them continued on their way to the Li clan's manor. Lin Yi's divine sense swept out first, enveloping the entire manor. They actually have a level 7 defense formation. This Li family is really not simple. Lin Yi was slightly surprised. A level 7 array formation had already stepped into the earth rank. It was completely different from a level 6 array formation. After being on the Heaven Rank Island for so long, it was very rare for Lin Yi to see an Earth Rank array formation. Most of them were Mystic Rank or even Yellow Rank Low Rank array formations. If there wasn't a ghost, he wouldn't even be able to enter the Li clan's manor. Boss, my divine sense can't sweep in. There is no way to break the restriction of this manor. Languza tried for a while, but could only helplessly give up on the idea of using his divine sense to continue exploring. It doesn't matter. We will directly fight our way in. Today, you can attack straightforwardly. Just don't screw up. Lin Yi smiled faintly. A level 7 defense formation was too difficult for him, but for an Earth rank array formation grandmaster, it was nothing. It wasn't difficult to enter the Li clan's manor. Great. I was waiting for boss to say that. Languza's face lit up. He rolled up his sleeves and prepared to fight. As they spoke, the two of them arrived at the mountain gate below the manor. They were stopped by 2 Li clan guards. This is a private place. If you have nothing to do, please leave immediately. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. Seeing the two of them coming over, one of them stepped forward to stop them. He probably saw that Lin Yi and Languza were relatively unfamiliar, so he wasn't very polite. Languza looked at Lin Yi with his eyes. He didn't know if he could make a move now. Lin Yi shook his head slightly. He still needed to confirm it first. He couldn't just listen to the middle-aged woman's side of the story. If things weren't as he thought, wouldn't he be used as a spear in vain? You too, we are people from the Zhou clan of Sunset Hill. Just now, our deacon Zhou Nianqing brought a person over. I don't know if it's convenient for us to meet him. Lin Yi smiled slightly and politely asked with cupped fists. As long as it was confirmed that Zhou Nianqing had indeed come, Li Jingming was naturally also inside. Hearing that Lin Yi was a person from the Zhou clan, the faces of the 2 guards looked a little better. The one who spoke before nodded slightly and said, "It turns out to be a friend of the Zhou clan. Zhou Nianqing just sent the person in for a while. If you have nothing important to do, just wait here. You should be able to see him come out soon." This guy waved his hand very arrogantly. He didn't mean to inform Lin Yi and Languza at all. Obviously, the ordinary people of the Zhou clan were not worth mentioning in their eyes. What's more, they came to find Zhou Nianqing. Being able to let Lin Yi and Languza wait at the door was already very good. Sorry, we have very important things to do. We can't wait. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Languza understood tacitly. He immediately moved behind him like a ghost to the front of the 2 guards and punched out. The violent true chi exploded. Although it wasn't a frontal attack on either of them, it still rolled the 2 guards into the air. Finally, they hit the stone steps in front of the mountain gate. They vomited blood and fainted. Boss, do we need to kill this kind of weak chicken? Languza turned to look at Lin Yi. He didn't care about killing people. He was afraid that Lin Yi would be unhappy after killing them. That's why he held back. They didn't take the initiative to attack us. They also didn't pose a threat. Let's leave them alive first and wait for Li Jingming to decide whether or not to kill them. Lin Yi casually replied and entered the mountain gate of the Li clan villa first. In essence, Lin Yi was not a bloodthirsty person. Unless those who threatened himself or the people around him were enemies, he would not hesitate to kill. The Li clan villa was Li Jingming's enemy. Lin Yi could go and save people. But how to retaliate, it was still up to Li Jingming to decide. I understand. Boss, I'll open the way. Languza already had a plan in his heart. He immediately stepped forward. Those who didn't pose a threat and didn't take the initiative to attack could keep their lives. Otherwise, they could be killed. Lin Yi stretched out his hand and pulled Languza, who had just passed him, back. You go in front. What if the Li clan villa activates the formation? Follow me obediently. Chapter 60-59. Boss, you're really thorough. Languza was a little apprehensive about formations. He hurriedly returned to Lin Yi's side and vigilantly observed the surroundings. Sure enough, as Lin Yi expected, although the two of them were fast, the Li family's mountain villa's formation was activated after traveling a distance of 80 to 100 meters. A level 7 trap formation, similar to the defensive formation outside. However, its power is much weaker than a normal level 7 formation. It seems like the person who set it up is very limited. The ghostly thing had a look of disdain. It was a top-notch Earth-level formation master. This kind of formation could barely be considered as a level 7 formation. It was really not worth mentioning. Senior Ghost, help me break through the trap formation quickly. Li Jingming is waiting for me to save him. Lin Yi really wanted to take this opportunity to study the Tao of formations. Unfortunately, time waits for no man. Something might happen to Li Jingming, so he had to find him as soon as possible. You brat, you still have the nerve to say that? You've learned the Tao of formations from me for so long, but you can't even deal with this kind of broken formation. Rotten wood cannot be carved. The ghostly thing laughed strangely and ridiculed. In reality, Lin Yi's comprehension of Tao of formations was definitely among the geniuses. Lin Yi was speechless. How long had he studied Tao of formations? He was already a peak golden level formation master. Although he could not set up a mystic level formation, he could still barely do it without being affected. If this was considered rotten wood, then everything in the world was probably rotten wood. The ghostly thing was just joking. It would not delay its business. After making fun of Lin Yi, it pointed him to quickly find the nodes of the formation and easily brought Languza out of the influence of the trap formation. After a short while, Lin Yi and Languza arrived at the entrance of the Li family's villa. This was a large piece of flat rock halfway up the mountain. The Li family's lower-level disciples usually practiced their martial arts here. At this time, there were already 5 people waiting for Lin Yi and Languza at the entrance. Hey, if it isn't Lin Yi, the rookie king of Blue Cloud Pavilion a few years back. What brings you here today? One of them recognized Lin Yi and walked over in a strange manner. Who are you? Lin Yi glanced at this old man and couldn't remember when he had met such a person. This guy was stunned for a moment, and a flash of embarrassment and annoyance appeared on his face. He knew Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't know him. Didn't this mean that the two of them weren't on the same level? I'm the steward of the mysterious pavilion, Li Inko from the Li family of the North Island. Junior brother Lin, you're so famous that it's understandable that you don't know a nobody like me. This old guy called Li Inko looked unhappy. His words were still sarcastic, but his momentum had completely weakened. You know you're a nobody, but you still talk so much nonsense. This great lord's big brother doesn't have the time to bother with you. Hurry up and scram to the side. Longu glared at Li Inko, his fiendish demeanor instantly giving Li Inko a fright. He wanted to lose his temper, but somehow, looking at Languza. He felt a chill in his heart and didn't dare to continue to speak. Where is Zhou Nianqing? Lin Yi didn't have time to deal with such a nobody. He was just a steward of the mysterious pavilion, and his cultivation was only at the peak of the nascent soul realm. If he dared to take the initiative to attack, Languza would be happy to teach him a lesson. The thin middle-aged man at the edge of the 5 people trembled slightly and subconsciously moved his feet. You are Zhou Nianqing? Lin Yi's eyes were like lightning, staring coldly at the thin man. Yes, I am Zhou Nianqing. What do you want from me? Zhou Nianqing knew that he couldn't hide it, and he was confident that he was now in the Li family villa, and there was no problem with safety, so he puffed out his chest and pretended to be calm and looked at Lin Yi. Where is Li Jingming? Lin Yi didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point. At the same time, the momentum of his body slowly rose. Among the 5 people in front of him, except for Li Yinko who was at the peak of the nascent soul realm, 3 of them, including Zhou Nianqing, were at the profound ascension stage, and 1 was at the early stage of the mountain opening stage. However, the strength of these people was very weak. They should have accumulated their cultivation through medicinal pills. They had no advantage in front of opponents of the same level, let alone a monster like Lin Yi. Feeling the powerful momentum of Lin Yi's late stage of the profound ascension stage, except for the cultivator at the early stage of the mountain opening stage, the other 4 people couldn't help but change their expressions slightly. It was really that the speed of Lin Yi's rise was too amazing. What was his cultivation when he became the newcomer king? Only a few years had passed. In terms of cultivation speed, Lin Yi was even more terrifying than Li Shuigao, the patriarch of the Li family's villa. Since he had offended such a person, he must be killed before he grew up. The cultivator at the early stage of the mountain opening stage of the Li family secretly sent out a signal. It was estimated that he was gathering experts to surround and kill Lin Yi. Unfortunately, he didn't know that the thing Lin Yi was least afraid of was group battles. The sea beast tied not long ago could definitely explain everything. Zhou Nianqing secretly looked at the few people of the Li family. It was true that he had captured Li Jingming, but it was a gift to the Li family. Now that Lin Yi had come to the door, he shouldn't be the one to show up no matter what. Lin Yi, who are you? How dare you bully my Li family's door? A mere blue cloud pavilion can't protect you. Even if Pavilion Master Shangguan thinks highly of you, he will never let you mess around. Li Yinko shouted fiercely. Among the people present, he was the weakest, so he was the most impatient. Lin Yi's figure flashed, leaving behind a phantom in his original place. His real body appeared behind Zhou Nianqing like a ghost. He raised his hand and shot out a subtle 5 elements murderous qi, instantly controlling this guy's ability to move. The few people of the Li family didn't realize that Zhou Nianqing had fallen into the enemy's hands until Lin Yi's phantom began to dissipate. But at this time, Lin Yi had already brought him back to his original position. He forcefully sat on the ground and stepped on Zhou Nianqing's chest, looking down at him coldly from above. I'll ask you again, where is Li Jingming? Of course, Lin Yi knew that Li Jingming was in the Li family villa, but before saving people, he must first intimidate them, lest these guys make a move on Li Jingming first. That would be very bad. Zhou Nianqing stared at Lin Yi with a face full of horror. He opened his mouth wide and made a sound, but he couldn't say a clear word. Because Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous qi was wantonly destroying his meridians. That kind of pain was like the punishment in hell. Since you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Lin Yi indifferently glanced at Zhou Nianqing. He slightly exerted force with his feet, and the 5 elements murderous qi in his body immediately exploded, completely destroying all his meridians and vitality. Zhou Nianqing's quickly dimmed eyes were full of unwillingness. How could he not want to say it? He clearly didn't have the chance to say it. Chapter 60-60. The 4 people of the Li family felt cold all over. Zhou Nianqing was an expert in the early stage of profound ascension, but in the hands of Lin Yi, he was no different from an ant, and was easily crushed to death. What was even more terrifying was that they clearly saw it, but there was no way to stop it from happening. Hand over my brother Li Jingming, don't make me say it again. Lin Yi kicked Zhou Nianqing's body in front of the 4 people, and looked at them coldly. I don't know what you're talking about, but if you think the North Island's Li family will be so easily scared by you, then you're wrong. The leader of the early stage of mountain opening was still calm, and did not care about Zhou Nianqing's body, and calmly looked at Lin Yi. Languza, go in and find him. Lin Yi did not continue to talk nonsense, and directly waved his hand to signal to start fighting. Languza laughed out loud. Seeing that his boss had gotten first place, this guy had been itching for a long time. Upon hearing Lin Yi's order, he immediately tapped his feet and brought up a gust of wind as he charged towards the 4 people from the Li family. They were both in the early stage of mountain opening, but the Li family's was the weakest in the early stage of mountain opening, and Languza could compete with the weakest in the early stage of earth opening. The two were not on the same level at all. Before he arrived, the chi on his fist had already whistled, and the 4 people of the Li family had a feeling that they could not stand steadily. Whether they were in the mountain opening stage or the nascent soul stage, under Languza's fist, they could not help but take a big step back. If they stayed for a moment longer, they might directly explode and die. This was the result of Languza's mercy. He firmly remembered Lin Yi's words, only the opponent took the initiative to attack and had a threat to kill, and the 4 people in front of him did not seem to meet the requirements. Lin Yi did not care about Languza's battle, and with a tap of his foot, his figure shot out like lightning, directly towards the gate of the Li family's villa. Since Zhou Nianqing appeared here, presumably Li Jingming would not be too far away. Lin Yi rushed into the gate, his divine sense swept wildly, completely destroying some simple restrictions, just to be able to find Li Jingming as soon as possible. However, the first person he saw wasn't Li Jingming, but House Li's reinforcements. There were a total of 15 mystical ascending stage and 2 mountain opening stage masters. They were much stronger than House Zhou, but they were all the same in his eyes. Bold madman, you dare to cause trouble in our Li family, you really don't know how the word death is written. A peak profound ascension late stage cultivator roared and flew over, his hands had already condensed an extremely violent innate chi, ready to attack Lin Yi at any time. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and casually used a wildfire 8 trigrams palm. The surging flames swept the entire scene, all the supporting experts were trapped inside, the guy who bore the brunt of the attack screamed, and flew back at a speed 2 or 3 times faster than when he came. The innate chi condensed in his hands had long dissipated. The rest of the people immediately faced a great enemy, using all their strength to resist Lin Yi's wildfire 8 trigrams palm. With great difficulty, no one was injured, but no one dared to be careless anymore. I don't want to talk nonsense, hand over my brother Li Jingming, or else I will let you know how the word death is written. Lin Yi stood with his hands behind his back, and coldly swept his gaze over the dozen experts in front of him. These Li family experts felt a chill in their hearts. The peak profound ascension late stage who spoke just now, was now limp on the ground and vomiting blood. He couldn't even swallow the healing medicine, it seemed like he couldn't hold on any longer. It was he who said that Lin Yi didn't know how to write the word death, but in the end, Lin Yi directly used him to write the word death for all the Li family to see. So powerful, so impressive. I, Li Shuigao, want to see how you will let us know the word death again. In the midst of the confrontation, a man suddenly appeared in the field. Even Lin Yi was not able to detect how he came. Li Shuigao? Lin Yi's pupils slightly contracted. This young man who looked less than 30 years old had a slender figure, a very humble smile on his face. If only looking at his appearance, no one would think that he was an ungrateful white-eyed wolf. Boss, I've taken care of the few guys outside. Languza landed next to Lin Yi, after reporting in a low voice. He looked at Li Shuigao with extreme vigilance. This guy had a faint sense of danger. Even the careless Languza did not dare to be the slightest bit disrespectful. Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomer King Lin Yi, you are really amazing. Even the North Island Elders Council is not in your eyes. Do you think that Blue Cloud Pavilion is enough to protect you? Or will Shanghai Tianhua come forward to support you? Li Shuigao's smile and his tone of speech were completely out of tune, making Lin Yi have a very uncomfortable feeling of being cut. Li Shuigao, don't talk about him. The person Zhou Nianqing brought is my brother, let him go immediately. Otherwise, I will find him myself. Lin Yi could not see through Li Shuigao's real strength. It was estimated that he was not at the peak of mountain opening, perhaps this bastard had already reached the early stage of earth opening. Moreover, Li Shuigao's strength was very stable, completely different from his clansmen. This was definitely a difficult opponent to deal with. Languza was afraid that he could not resist. I don't know what you are talking about. Today, you hit my Li family villa. I won't care about other things, but you must give me an explanation for this matter first. Li Shuigao completely denied the existence of Li Jingming, only focusing on the fact that Lin Yi came to make trouble, obviously wanting to take the righteous title. Then there is nothing to say. Lin Yi's feet staggered, and the extreme butterfly microstep took him to appear in front of Li Shuigao in an instant, and a Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm shot out again. The new Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm developed later was very practical, and the speed was extremely fast. Lin Yi was most comfortable with it, but it was not enough to deal with a master of Li Shuigao's level. Such a simple martial skill is your unique skill? That makes me a little disappointed. Li Shuigao chuckled twice, stretched out his hand and drew a small circle in front of him, at the same time retracting his fingers. The flames of the Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm were immediately absorbed by the small circle in front of Li Shuigao, as if it had fallen into a bottomless black hole, without the slightest leakage. The corner of Lin Yi's mouth hooked up. He did not expect the Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm to be able to do anything to Li Shuigao. This was only used to probe. At the end of the flames, a colorful dragon-shaped 5 elements murderous aura whizzed towards Li Shuigao, waving its front claws casually, completely tearing apart the circular restriction that Li Shuigao had casually laid down. Unfortunately, the flames of the Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm had already dissipated, and did not form a counterattack. Chapter 60-61. Without a word, Languza rushed to the other targets at the same time as Lin Yi attacked, temporarily restraining them so as not to disturb the battle between the two. Facing the dragon-shaped 5 elements murderous aura, Li Shuigao put his hands together and pushed outwards. A sharp spear of Jin Qi directly pierced the 5 elements murderous aura and began to struggle desperately. Lin Yi did not stop. His body was as fast as lightning, and he attacked Li Shuigao's side again. This position was extremely tricky, and if he was not careful, he could be seriously injured. Li Shuigao did not panic. He just took 2 steps to the side, and barely avoided Lin Yi's attack. Is that all you've got? Then I won't be polite and start attacking. Are you ready? Li Shuigao smiled, and before he finished speaking, he had already launched an amazing attack. Li Shuigao's body swayed, and he casually punched out. The Jin Qi formed a terrible momentum like a monstrous wave, and it suddenly rushed towards Lin Yi. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi felt that the space around him was extremely compressed, and he could not even complete the simplest dodge. He could only go with the flow of the opponent's attack. If this continued, there was no doubt that he would fall into an absolute passive position. Languza was shocked. The power of this move, even his body might not be able to resist it. With the strength of Lin Yi's body, if he was hit head-on, he would definitely be in danger. It was a pity that Languza wanted to help Lin Yi, but he could not escape. None of the Li family's experts were a match for him alone, but if they joined forces, it would not be easy to deal with him. Lin Yi's expression did not change. Li Shuigao's attack was indeed not weak, but there was no need for him to take it head-on. After activating the 3 appearances of the Cloud Dragon, he left behind a shadow and easily escaped from the pressure of the huge wave. Interesting. He is indeed a rare genius. Li Shuigao's eyes instantly turned to the place where Lin Yi appeared, and hundreds of water arrows shot out, blocking all possible escape routes. However, these water arrows only penetrated the second shadow. When Lin Yi reappeared, he was less than a meter away from Li Shuigao. A 5 elements killing aura whizzed over and directly rushed into Li Shuigao's body. However, Lin Yi didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. He unleashed the full power of the extreme butterfly subtle steps and instantly left his original spot. Countless concentrated water arrows bombarded the same spot as he left, and Li Shuigao, who was hit by the 5 elements killing aura, exploded and turned into a pool of clear water, directly scattering on the ground. Not bad, not bad. You were actually able to break the doppelganger that I created with my Jin Qi. I'm getting more and more interested in you. You should know that my greatest hobby is to strangle geniuses like you. Li Shuigao stood more than 10 meters away and applauded lightly. He had a satisfied smile on his face as if he had just enjoyed a wonderful performance. Lin Yi coldly looked at Li Shuigao. This guy's strength was indeed very formidable. If he didn't take out his trump card, he would certainly not be a match for him. However, Lin Yi wasn't worried. The reason why he hadn't used his big move like the Soul Hook Hand Thunder Burial was because he wanted to try and see how big the gap was between his current strength and the initial stage of Earth opening stage. How is it? My doppelganger is more powerful than your shadow, right? It's not easy for you to break my doppelganger. As a reward for you, I'll let you see what's more powerful. Li Shuigao raised his arms, and 6 identical doppelgangers appeared beside him. They weren't just shadows, but real people. The aura fluctuations on their bodies were exactly the same as the original body. 7 stars illusory water. Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to distinguish which one of these 7 Li Shuigao was the real one if his divine sense wasn't incomparably powerful. Especially when they were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper, and joined together to form a whole body. However, Li Shuigao had never imagined that Lin Yi's divine sense was so powerful that it was enough to lock onto his real body. Moreover, it could penetrate the illusion, and accurately distinguish the strength of the doppelgangers. In fact, the doppelgangers didn't even have 1/10 of Li Shuigao's real body. Do you think that you are amazing just because you have 6 doppelgangers? What a joke! Lin Yi sneered. His figure flickered continuously. 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, would forest illusion 1,000 transformations. If they were talking about clones, this move of Lin Yi's could turn Li Shuigao's 7-star illusory water into smithereens. In an instant, there were hundreds of Lin Yi's on the flat field, and not a single one of them was a shadow. It was a pity that the power of wood forest illusion 1,000 transformations was there. All the doppelgangers added up were just a lot more cannon fodder. They couldn't threaten Li Shuigao at all. Because of this, after a slight shock, Li Shuigao curled up the corner of his mouth in disdain. The 7-star illusory water's power was fully unleashed. In an instant, hundreds of Lin Yi's doppelgangers were killed. I thought you had some amazing moves. It turns out that it's just a rubbish martial arts skill. It's more like using it to scare people. The 7 Li Shuigaos had the same mocking expression on their faces. Their hands didn't stop moving. Every second, hundreds of Lin Yi's doppelgangers would disappear. If this went on, it wouldn't take more than 1 or 2 breaths to completely wipe out the effect of wood forest illusion 1,000 transformations. You guessed right. This is just used to scare you. Lin Yi's body suddenly appeared in front of Li Shuigao's body. There was a different flame in each of his palms. After saying that, without waiting for Li Shuigao to react, Lin Yi directly put his hands together. A violent flame of true energy was slapped towards his face. Super Pill Fire Bomb. Lin Yi had long planned to use the wood forest illusion 1,000 transformations to affect Li Shuigao's judgment. Then, while he could sense the opponent's body, he quietly came up and shot a super pill fire bomb. Li Shuigao was slightly startled. Obviously, he didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to accurately find his body. However, he didn't take Lin Yi's attack to heart. A cultivator at the peak of the profound ascension late stage, although he was overflowing with talent and could fight across levels, it was not enough to threaten him. However, Li Shuigao immediately realized that he was wrong. The little ball of fire in Lin Yi's hand was emitting a shockwave that made him feel like his soul was about to leave his body. In an instant, he made an accurate judgment. He knew that he wouldn't be able to block it. He immediately sent his clone to be a meat shield. The directional explosion of the super pill fire bomb whistled over. Li Shuigao blocked all 6 doppelgangers in front of him. Watching those doppelgangers turn into water splashes and immediately evaporate, he felt a little cold in his heart for the first time. This Lin Yi, he really underestimated him. Chapter 60-62. Boss, are you okay? These guys are quite durable. Languza said in a low voice. Normally, he would be happy to have the opportunity to fight, but now was not the time. It's okay, it's just a test. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not seem to care too much. Lin Yi, you are really powerful, worthy of being one of the strongest newcomer kings. That's enough for the warm-up exercise, let's start fighting seriously. Li Shuigao patted the dust on his body and slightly twisted his neck a few times, as if he was really just playing around. I also feel that it's meaningless to waste time. What other tricks do you have? Just take them out. Lin Yi already knew the gap between himself and Li Shuigao. Although this guy was in the early stage of earth opening, his strength did not seem to be much stronger than the mountain opening great perfection. Perhaps it was because he had just broken through not long ago. In a normal battle, Lin Yi might not be this guy's opponent, but that was under the premise that he did not use many big moves. This was also the reason why he was so confident now. Dealing with a little guy like you, it's too embarrassing for me to fight seriously. Seeing that you seem to have some knowledge of formations, today I will let you see one of my treasures. Open your eyes and take a good look. Li Shuigao suddenly changed his decision to fight, and directly took out a palm-sized formation. After it was activated, the entire platform was enveloped in it. Level 7 Lightning Fall Array. Lin Yi was slightly startled. Although he had never seen this kind of formation plate, he had heard of it from ghost things. He did not expect Li Shuigao to have such a precious thing in his hands. It was said that this kind of formation plate was a treasure passed down from ancient times. Now, no one could make it, so in the range of the Heavenly Stage Island, there was almost no trace of the lightning fall array. It was no wonder that Li Shuigao was able to cultivate so many profound ascending stage subordinates in less than 20 years, because the thunder fall formation plate could imitate the thunder tribulation to allow people to advance to the profound ascending stage, but this kind of imitation thunder tribulation was even weaker than the one created by Lin Yi, so the profound ascending stage subordinates of Li Shuigao were weaker than cultivators of the same level. In addition to creating lightning tribulations, the lightning fall array disc was also an offensive killing array. Within the range of the array, countless bolts of lightning could completely kill the enemy. The only problem was that this array disc required a large amount of lightning and spiritual jades as its energy source. Spiritual jades were still manageable, but lightning could only be collected and stored during thunderstorms. Therefore, its usage was somewhat limited. You do have some knowledge to be able to tell that this is a lightning array disc. I wonder if you can withstand the attack of lightning? Li Shuigao was extremely proud of himself. He rarely had the opportunity to fight against an enemy, and this lightning fall array disc had not been used for a long time. The amount of lightning stored inside was enough to deal with 2 juniors at the peak of the profound ascending stage and the early stage of the mountain opening stage. It was absolutely more than enough. Lin Yi and Languza had a strange expression on their faces, but they did not speak. Wanting to use the lightning fall array disc to deal with Lin Yi was like using dry wood to extinguish a fire. They really did not know what to say. If it was any other rank 7 array disc, without the help of a ghost, Lin Yi really did not dare to say that he would have any way to deal with it. But Li Shuigao took out a lightning fall array disc. Lin Yi could only laugh. Dozens of lightning arcs under Li Shuigao's control simultaneously struck towards Lin Yi and Languza. The two of them seemed to be scared silly, not even the slightest bit of movement, they just stared at the lightning arcs falling on their bodies. After Languza underwent a mutation, he had also gone through the tempering of the lightning tribulation created by Lin Yi, causing his fleshly body to be incomparably tough. These lightning arcs at most could only tickle him. If there was any kind of threat, then it would at least be a real lightning tribulation. As for Lin Yi, he had the lightning escape technique, so even a real lightning tribulation would not be able to harm him in the slightest, not to mention this kind of ordinary lightning stored in a rank 7 array disk. Boss, the lightning that this guy brought out is really weak, why don't you let him see what a real lightning bolt looks like? Languza came over and winked at Li Shuigao. His eyes were filled with a gloating expression as he looked at Li Shuigao. Don't be anxious, he will see it soon. Lin Yi faintly smiled, he was already prepared to make his move. Li Shuigao had a bad feeling in his heart. The effects of the lightning fall array disc did not seem to be as good as he had imagined. Those two brats were actually able to talk to each other as if nothing had happened under the lightning arcs. Could it be that it had not been used for a long time, and the lightning within it had already lost its original power? Thinking of this, Li Shuigao worked even harder to activate the lightning fall array disc, sending out even more lightning arcs to attack Lin Yi and Languza. The power of the lightning arc seemed to be linked together. It looked very frightening. Lin Yi's mouth curled up, he raised his hand and shot out dozens of lightning arcs that were several times thicker than the lightning fall array disc, instantly tearing apart the lightning net that Li Shuigao had activated, at the same time continuously absorbing the dissipating lightning source, turning it around to attack Li Shuigao. If it wasn't for the fact that the Thousand Thunder Burst and Thunder Burial were not easy to control, it would be easy to accidentally injure Li Jingming. Lin Yi would have directly plowed through the entire manor. Lightning Attribute Cultivator. Li Shuigao's complexion changed, he only had enough time to cry out in alarm, he immediately retreated. Facing these lightning arcs, he did not dare to be careless. The lightning fall array disc was not enough to pose a threat to an early-stage earth-opening cultivator, but the power of Lin Yi's lightning arcs was clearly above the lightning fall array disc. Li Shuigao did not want to suffer any injuries. He really did not expect that Lin Yi had actually hidden his strength so deeply, and was even an extremely rare lightning attribute cultivator. If it was any other opponent, perhaps they would have used their strongest attack from the start, who would be like Lin Yi, who was obviously much weaker, but still hid his lightning attribute martial skill and did not use it. Lin Yi activated the lightning evasion technique. In the blink of an eye, he appeared beside Li Shuigao, and shot out another 2 lightning arcs. At such a close distance, there was simply no time for him to dodge, and all of them struck his body. Li Shuigao twitched for a while, but before Lin Yi's next wave of attack, he still managed to shift his position, trying to open up the distance between him and Lin Yi. Unfortunately, Lin Yi's movement speed in the lightning area was comparable to teleportation, and Li Shuigao's movement was no different from that of a snail. Before he moved, Lin Yi was already waiting on the predetermined route. The Divine Awareness Vortex and the 5 elements killing Qi attacked at the same time. Li Shuigao suddenly screamed, and his spirit and meridians were severely damaged at the same time. In comparison, the muscle numbness caused by the lightning arcs was nothing. With a few soft cracking sounds, the lightning fall array disc broke into several pieces and fell directly to the ground. Lin Yi looked at it with a little pity. This was a treasure handed down from ancient times. Although it was of no use to him, if he kept it in the North Island, it could at least create a lot of masters in the mysterious ascension stage. Chapter 60-63. Lin Yi snorted coldly. He raised his hand and released dozens of lightning arcs, blocking all these people more than 10 meters away. At the same time, he kicked Li Shuigao and stepped on him. If you dare to move, Li Shuigao will be finished immediately. Lin Yi's cold eyes swept over the dozen Li family masters. They immediately became silent and did not dare to move at all. Lin Yi. Don't mess around. Our family master is a member of the North Island Elder Council. If there's any damage, even if the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion comes out, they won't be able to protect you. The first mountain opening stage master stood there and did not dare to come over, but he could not help but warn Lin Yi, hoping to use words to make Lin Yi hesitate. Don't tell me it's useless. Bring my brother Li Jingming out immediately. Otherwise, no one will be able to protect your Li family. The first to die will be Li Shuigao. Lin Yi slightly exerted force on his feet. Li Shuigao suddenly moaned twice. Under the situation where he was unprepared, the divine sense whirlpool and the 5 elements murderous qi tortured him. Although he was not dead, he had lost all ability to resist. He could not even scream loudly. The person who spoke gritted his teeth and looked back at the last profound ascending stage master, signaling him to hurry and bring Li Jingming out. Boss, that's it? It seems a bit dangerous to leave so many of them here. How about I take care of them first? Seeing that Li Jingming was about to be saved, Languza suddenly had an idea. The battle just now was not satisfying at all. If he did not hurry up and take action now, he probably would not have a chance anymore. Lin Yi turned back and stared at Languza. Right now, the most important thing was to get Li Jingming back. He did not want to cause trouble. To be able to defeat Li Shuigao so easily, in addition to Lin Yi's own strength, luck also played a large role. If that guy did not suddenly use the lightning formation plate, it would be impossible for Lin Yi to defeat him so easily. Within the range of the lightning fall matrix, Lin Yi was able to shoot out lightning bolts in both quantity and quality, far exceeding the normal standard. The reason was that the lightning stored within was all used by him, and now that the matrix was destroyed, it would be difficult for him to shoot out lightning bolts of that level again. Plus, he'd already used up a lot of his qi. Although he had the jade space to replenish it, it wasn't possible for him to recover to his peak instantaneously. Those masters didn't want to push Li Jingming too far just in case. Languza shrunk his neck. Seeing that Lin Yi did not want to continue for the time being, he could only stare hard and use his eyes to threaten the dozen masters to not move. After a while, Li Jingming was brought over, but his appearance was very miserable. All his limbs were broken, his body was full of scars, and his clothes were completely soaked in blood. It was as if he had just been fished out of a blood pool. If it was an ordinary person, just the blood loss alone would be enough to kill him. Lin Yi's eyes were cold, and his heart was filled with killing intent. Originally, he wanted to let Li Jingming decide how to deal with the Li family, but now he almost changed his mind and wanted to personally destroy this villa. Lin Yi, this person has already taken a recover pill. For the time being, his life will not be in danger. His hands and feet are hard injuries, and he can be healed with a little treatment. You can take him away now. Then return our master to us. The profound ascending stage master who brought Li Jingming out raised his voice and explained. He was afraid that Li Jingming would suddenly die, so he wanted to exchange Li Shuigao back as soon as possible. To be honest, these Li family masters were not very clear how Li Shuigao suddenly lost to Lin Yi, but most of them thought that Lin Yi happened to be a lightning-type cultivator, so Li Shuigao used the lightning fall formation plate to help his opponent instead. It was not that he really could not beat Lin Yi. Because of this thought, they felt that after exchanging Li Shuigao back, with so many people joining hands, there was still a possibility of winning against Lin Yi and Languza. Languza didn't need Lin Yi's order to rush over and pick up Li Jingming. The Li family's masters wanted to stop him, but they were scared off by the ferocious look in the guy's eyes. Lin Yi, you've already taken him away, can you let our master back? The mountain opening stage master who spoke earlier looked at Lin Yi anxiously, afraid that Lin Yi would go back on his words. Lin Yi did not pay attention to that guy at all, and directly took out a level 7 great revitalizing pill and sent it into Li Jingming's mouth, then transferred his own innate qi over, and quickly healed his internal injuries. Fortunately, Li Jingming's injuries looked serious on the surface, but there were not many internal injuries in his body. Other than his broken limbs, he was only unconscious due to excessive blood loss. Seeing Lin Yi unscrupulously healing Li Jingming's injuries, the Li family people were somewhat restless. Languza took a step forward at the right time, and glared angrily at these people's faces. They had already seen Languza's strength just now. Even if everyone attacked together, they would not be able to deal with him in a short period of time. In addition, Li Shuigao was still under Lin Yi's feet and was not out of danger, so in the end, no one dared to make a move. After knowing that Li Jingming was fine, Lin Yi temporarily gave up on the idea of exterminating the Li family. It would be better for Li Jingming to do these things himself, but Li Shuigao and the Li family's experts, Lin Yi did not plan to let them go. The soul-reaping hand silently took away Li Shuigao's primordial spirit, leaving behind the body that was not completely dead on the ground. Lin Yi's figure flashed, and numerous lightning arcs exploded among the dozen or so people, and he used the lightning arcs to instantly arrive in the middle of them. The strongest of these people were only at the mountain opening stage, and to Lin Yi, they were not existences that could not be dealt with. Moreover, these people's foundations were weak, and the early stage of the mountain opening stage was not much stronger than a normal profound ascension great circle. They were completely for show, and Lin Yi did not feel any pressure dealing with them. The wildfire 8 trigrams palm combined with the 5 elements killing chi was casually unleashed, and when these people were caught off guard, he completed the sweep in an instant. However, Lin Yi did not kill all of them. He only crippled the cultivation of these dozen or so people, so that they would not become an obstacle to Li Jingming's revenge in the future. Languza looked at the Li family's experts who were groaning on the ground with hidden bitterness. This job should have been done by him. How could the boss do it himself? It was a rare bit of fun. It seemed like he could only go back and eat more good food to make up for it. When Lin Yi finished all this, 5 figures rushed over from the direction of the mountain gate. The one in front was especially fast, and in a breath's time, he rushed onto the platform and appeared outside the Li family's gate. Chapter 60-64 Fish Baby Book Friends 2 Group 4177233151, Hall Leader Ram. They kidnapped my brother for no reason and seriously injured him. Is there any problem with me coming to rescue him? Your law enforcement hall didn't do anything. Did I get in your way? Lin Yi didn't look happy either. When he was in Zhou Xiang restaurant, the 2 guys from the law enforcement hall helped the Zhou family openly and secretly. Now he just solved the Li family's problem, and Ram Jie suddenly appeared to blame him. It was no wonder that Lin Yi was happy. I'll naturally investigate what you said, and I'll never let go of a person who commits a crime in the North Island. But what you're doing now is also against the law enforcement hall's commandment, so you have to go back with me. Ram Jie glanced at Li Jingming, who was still unconscious, and didn't change his mind at all. Languza was furious and stepped forward. How can you talk to my boss like that? Could it be that you're in cahoots with these guys, so you want to stand up for them now? How dare you? Several other people from the law enforcement hall hurried over and happened to hear Languza's words. Suddenly, they became agitated and rebuked him. Our hall leader is famous for being impartial. Who do you think you are? How dare you slander our hall leader like this? This alone is enough for you to sit in the law enforcement hall. Hall leader, we can't be polite to this kind of person. What's more, he injured a colleague. Please order us to arrest him. Ram Jie waved his hand to stop his subordinates from talking nonsense. Then he looked at Lin Yi indifferently. Lin Yi, I've said that everything will be investigated. As for how to determine the nature of what you did, it will be clear when the result comes out. Now come back with me to the law enforcement hall. Don't get Blue Cloud Pavilion involved. What if I don't go back with you? Lin Yi was also angry in his heart, so his words were naturally more impolite. Not to mention that Li Jingming's problem had not been solved yet. Even if it had been solved, he still had to hurry back to Zhongdao. How could he have the time to accompany Ram Jie in the law enforcement hall? Believe me, you will definitely come back with me. Ram Jie's expression didn't change, but his words were filled with incomparable confidence. Lin Yi could feel that he had already planned to make a move. Then we shall wait and see. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes slightly, and his pupils pierced Ram Jie's eyes like needles. Their gazes seemed to have substance, and they had begun an invisible confrontation. Languza took a step forward and was about to attack Ram Jie first. However, in the next moment, he felt as if he had fallen into a quagmire, and he couldn't move smoothly. Even lifting a finger was extremely difficult. So powerful. Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Ram Jia was indeed worthy of being the former #1 genius of the North Island. He could restrain Languza without batting an eyelid, and they couldn't see through his true strength at all. Compared to Ram Jia, Li Shuigao was indeed just a scum. Facing such a super expert, Lin Yi had already begun to calculate whether his few big moves would be effective. However, whether it was Soul Hook Palm or Thunder Burial, once they were used, they would definitely die. As for Ram Jia, he still didn't have the thought of killing him. At the critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the field. He laughed out loud and directly stood between Ram Jia and Lin Yi. Hall Leader Ram, why are you so serious? Lin Yi looked up and suddenly felt relieved. Just now, all his attention was on Ram Jia, so he didn't notice that Lan Tiefu actually followed him. Lan Tiefu, do you want to meddle in the affairs of the law enforcement hall? Ram Jia glanced at Lan Tiefu coldly, showing no intention of buying it. No, I'm just a senior brother in charge of the Rising Sky Pavilion. I'm not qualified to meddle in the affairs of the law enforcement hall. However, the pavilion leader already knows about this, and he said he'll handle it himself, so it's okay for the law enforcement hall not to meddle in this matter. Lan Tiefu smiled and waved his hand, looking like a peacemaker. Ram Jia suddenly fell silent. In the whole North Island, only Shanghai Tianhua could make him bow down. Apart from that, even people from ancient aristocratic families couldn't order him to do anything. Speaking of which, Shanghai Tianhua was indeed qualified to meddle in this matter, which didn't conflict with the law enforcement of the law enforcement hall. It was just like when the police in the secular world received a case, and then the Supernatural Investigation Bureau intervened halfway. Since that's the case, I'll leave first. Ram Jia just thought for a while and withdrew the genuine qi that bound Languza. He nodded to Lan Tiefu and Lin Yi, then turned around and left with his people expressionlessly. Lin Yi was a little stunned. Ram Jia just left like that? Just because of a word from Shanghai Tianhua? Junior brother Lin, don't lower yourself to the same level as Ram Jia. This guy is like that, with a sullen face all day long. In fact, he really doesn't have any selfish motives. Lan Tiefu walked to Lin Yi and explained to Ram Jia with a smile. Don't worry, senior brother Lan. I won't care. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He was a little angry just now, but now it was over, so there was no need to hate Ram Jia. After all, it was his duty. Languza came over with a smile and casually cupped his fists. Senior brother Lan? My surname is also Lan. Maybe we were relatives in the past. Lin Yi was speechless. This guy really liked to claim relatives. No matter what, Lan Tiefu couldn't be related to you by blood. He was a genuine human. What did he have to do with a sea beast like you? Oh, what a coincidence. Then we should get closer in the future. Lan Tiefu laughed and patted Languza's shoulder. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on, but he felt that Lan Tiefu was a lot more friendly than before. Could it be that Lan Tiefu saw that Lin Yi's strength had increased so quickly that he wanted to be friends with him? Or had he heard about Lin Yi's alchemy skills? Or was it purely because of Shanghai Tianhua? In any case, Lin Yi liked people who took the initiative to show kindness. Senior brother Lan, is the matter here very troublesome? Lin Yi looked at the groaningly family experts on the ground and asked with some embarrassment. If he had known that it would cause trouble for Shanghai Tianhua, Lin Yi would never have come to them openly. Hiding his tracks and coming to rescue them was the best choice. It's fine. You guys can go back. I've heard about the cause and effect of this matter. I'll take care of the rest, so don't worry. Lan Tiefu smiled and waved his hand, signaling for Lin Yi to quickly bring Li Zhengming back for treatment. Chapter 60-65. After a simple farewell, Languza rushed to carry Li Zhengming on his back and quickly followed Lin Yi to Blue Cloud Pavilion. After this battle, the Li family of the North Island was basically destroyed. Li Shuigao, the core figure, was dead, and the rest of the experts had lost their cultivation. Any small family could be stronger than the Li family. From now on, it would be much easier for Li Jingming to take revenge. When they left, Lin Yi scanned the middle-aged woman from the Zhou family with his divine mind. The level 1 concealment formation she had set up was still intact, so he did not bother her. The Li family was finished, so the Zhou family would not dare to come out and cause trouble. As for whether Li Jingming wanted to settle the score with the Zhou family in the future, it was none of his business. After a while, the three of them returned to Lin Yi's residence in Blue Cloud Pavilion. Li Jingming was still unconscious. This was good for his recovery, so he let him continue to sleep after they returned. Lin Yi wanted to take this opportunity to investigate what happened in Qiushui Villa. After asking Languza to take care of Li Jingming, Lin Yi entered his room and waved his hand to release Li Shuigao's primordial spirit. Lin Yi, what do you want to do to me? I'm warning you, let me go now, or someone will come to trouble you. Li Shuigao's primordial spirit was a little weak. As soon as it came out, it shouted to boost its courage. Oh. There's someone behind you? Why don't you tell me? Lin Yi smiled faintly, but his eyes were extremely cold. Leaving Li Shuigao's primordial spirit, Lin Yi was going to use the soul-searching skill to find out the truth behind the destruction of Qiushui Villa. If this guy could be sensible and voluntarily confess those things, he might be able to avoid the pain of the soul-searching skill. Don't think you can get any information from me. It won't take long for you to know how big of a trouble you've caused. Don't think that you can run amok just because Shanghai Tianhua is protecting you. Even if Soaring Sky Pavilion and Blue Cloud Pavilion join hands, they won't be able to protect you and the people around you. Li Shuigao didn't know the consequences of being so arrogant, so he continued to threaten Lin Yi. If you put it that way, I really want to know what kind of trouble I've caused. Since you don't want to tell me, I'll find the answer myself. It will be a little painful. Bear with it. Lin Yi expressionlessly stretched out his hand and activated the soul-searching technique derived from the primordial spirit devouring technique. He was usually unwilling to use the soul-searching technique, but it didn't mean that he didn't dare to use it. At most, it would be slightly troublesome afterwards. In order to figure out the truth, especially the person who might be behind Li Shuigao, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't care about such a little trouble. Li Shuigao's primordial spirit suddenly let out a shrill scream. The pain of his divine soul being torn apart, even the torture of being cut into pieces, wouldn't be comparable to it. He didn't collapse immediately because Lin Yi didn't want him to collapse. At least, before the soul-searching technique was completed, he wouldn't let him collapse so easily. In this room, Lin Yi had already arranged a layer of soundproof barrier in advance. Therefore, no matter how much Li Shuigao screamed, there would be no possibility of it leaking out. After a while, his screams became lower and lower, and finally, it slowly fell into silence. His primordial spirit also completely dissipated under the tyrannical search of the soul-searching technique. An early-stage Earth-opening realm expert had completely fallen, and didn't even have the chance to reincarnate. However, such an ungrateful villain like him didn't deserve any pity at all. However, Lin Yi's brows were still slightly wrinkled. His soul-searching technique was very successful, but the memory information obtained was not complete. There were still many fragments missing. The reason for this situation was that Li Shuigao's primordial spirit was too weak. In the process of soul-searching technique, there were a lot of losses, and the previous spiritual consciousness whirlpool also had a great impact. The other reason was that Lin Yi's soul-searching technique itself still had flaws. He couldn't obtain 100% of the complete memory of the other party. Before Li Shuigao, Lin Yi had never used the soul search art in its entirety, so this was the first time he'd found out about this flaw. The good thing was that most of the missing parts could be deduced from the clues he already had. Boss, Li Jingming has woken up, do you want to see him? Languza asked loudly outside the room. This time, the soul-searching technique did not take much time. Li Jingming could wake up, which proved that his injury was indeed not serious. For cultivators, a broken arm or a broken leg was nothing. As long as there were pills, they could be reconnected in minutes. Even if they lost their original body, regrowing a severed limb was very simple. "I'll be right there." Lin Yi rubbed his forehead and stood up. After Li Shuigao's soul-searching technique, he suddenly discovered a problem. The elderly who had intervened in the Qiushui Villa massacre case and put pressure on the law enforcement hall was not the current Li Shuigao, but someone else. He had really overlooked this point. Back then, Li Shuigao was far from qualified to enter the Elder Council. He had rapidly soared in the years after the Qiushui Villa massacre case, while the previous elderly had disappeared without a trace. So this time, Lin Yi almost made a big mistake. However, in Li Shuigao's memory, there was almost no information about the elderly. It seemed that this matter could only be left to Li Jingming to investigate. When Lin Yi arrived, Li Jingming was already able to sit up. Apart from his pale face, he could barely move his arms and legs. His recovery was quite good. Seeing Lin Yi enter, Li Jingming smiled bitterly and nodded, sincerely expressing his gratitude. "Boss Lin Yi, it's really all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, I would have died a terrible death. We're all brothers, so there's no need to be so polite. Tell me about the investigation of the incident that year." Lin Yi casually pulled over a chair and sat down. He wanted to listen to Li Jingming's information and verify it with Li Shuigao's memory. "Good. Actually, I was only a child at that time, so I didn't know much about the entire matter. However, after 2 years of investigation, I found some clues. It's a long story, so don't think I'm too long-winded, Boss Lin Yi." Li Jingming sat up a little straighter. He originally wanted to tell Lin Yi about this matter, so he had already organized his thoughts. Lin Yi smiled faintly and nodded, signaling for him to continue. Chapter 60-66. Over the past 2 years, I've slowly found some clues from nowhere. I've worked hard to find out the general situation of the matter. As one of the masterminds, Li Shuigao got a lot of benefits from the treasure, but I haven't been able to find out who the person who cooperated with him is. When Li Jingming said this, he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. He was almost killed just by investigating this far. If he wanted to take revenge, the future was really uncertain. Who was the elderly who intervened in the case investigation and pressured the law enforcement hall? You should have investigated him, right? Lin Yi knew more details than Li Jingming about why Li Shuigao colluded with foreign enemies to destroy Qiushui Villa. The general situation was not wrong, so he wasn't surprised at all. What he cared about was the elderly. I did investigate that elderly. It said that he was an outsider. After becoming a member of the Elders' Council in the North Island, he left the North Island, so there was no news about him later. This person was also quite low-key when he was in the North Island, and he basically didn't interact with other people. I investigated for a long time, but I didn't find anything, so I had to put it aside. Li Jingming didn't care much about that elderly. All his attention was on the traitor Li Shuigao. Boss Lin Yi, I came to you just now to ask for your opinion on how to deal with the Li family in the North Island. After Li Shuigao, the traitor, got the treasure, his strength improved by leaps and bounds, and he trained a lot of masters as his subordinates. In the family in the North Island, he's already a very powerful force, and he himself has become a member of the Elders' Council. Li Jingming suddenly stopped talking. This was his private matter, and it didn't make any sense to involve Lin Yi. This time, Lin Yi had to pay a huge price to save him. If Lin Yi continued to be involved in the Qiushui Manor incident, Li Jingming would feel very guilty. Lin Yi didn't think so much. Since Li Jingming had recognized him as his boss, the business of Qiushui Villa was naturally his business. If he hadn't been in a hurry to go back to Middle Island to try to save Han Jingjing with the Spirit Gathering branch and then go to the South Island to investigate the plan of the center, Lin Yi would definitely stay here and solve the business of Qiushui Villa before leaving. You don't have to worry about the Li family. In fact, Although Li Shuigao obtained a lot of benefits from that treasure and used it as a foundation to rise rapidly in just a dozen years, he only obtained a small part of the treasure. The majority was taken by his collaborators, so we should try our best to find Li Shuigao's collaborators. Lin Yi had most of Li Shuigao's memories and naturally knew how much this trader had benefited from the Chiu family's treasure map. 1/10. Just 1/10 of the treasure made him a member of the North Island Elders Committee within a few years, and then in the next 10 years, he built a powerful family. The formations of the Li family's villa, including the Thunderfall formation plate, were all part of the treasure. In addition, there were a lot of cultivation resources. Without the accumulation of these resources, Li Shuigao couldn't have risen so quickly, and it would have been difficult for his subordinates to compete with those long-established families. Boss Lin Yi, you know more than I do. Have you been paying attention to the Qiushui Villa incident in the past 2 years? Li Jingming was a little confused and touched. No matter what the reason was, it was enough that Lin Yi cared about him. I happened to get some information about this, so I know more about Li Shuigao. Lin Yi said vaguely. It wasn't that he didn't trust Li Jingming, but he didn't want too many people to know about the soul searching. Lin Yi paused for a moment before changing the topic. Actually, you could have told Gong Yangjie about this. Things are different now, and he's in charge of the law enforcement hall. He's a pretty fair man, and while I don't really like that ice-cold guy, I'm sure the investigation of the Qiushui Villa incident would progress much better with him around. Boss, I don't really trust Ram Jia. Li Jingming hesitated for a moment, but he still decided to tell the truth. Back then, when the Qiushui Manor underwent a huge change, I was just a child. Because I was playful, I hid in a secret room to escape. At that time, I saw a masked man in black. Although his face was covered, his figure was exactly the same as Ram Jia's. Lin Yi was stunned. He started to search Li Shuigao's memory. There was indeed such a masked man in black. He was one of the leaders that Li Shuigao had colluded with. However, his real identity had always been a mystery. Li Shuigao spent almost 20 years, but he still couldn't figure out who he was working with. When the idiot threatened Lin Yi before he died, he wasn't referring to this masked man in black. Instead, he was referring to some other big shots in the Elders Guild. Some of them were from ancient families, but they were all developed later and had nothing to do with the Qiushui Villa incident. Li Shuigao's memory of the masked man in black was very vague. However, after being reminded by Li Jingming, Lin Yi had some impression of the masked man. Indeed, the masked man's figure was extremely similar to Ram Jia's. Just this alone doesn't seem to prove anything, right? After all, there are many people who look alike. Not to mention their figures. Lin Yi said with uncertainty. Ram Jia wasn't very likable. However, it was hard to believe that he was involved in the Qiushui Villa incident and was one of the masterminds. Boss Lin Yi, I know that this alone can't prove anything. However, it's still a possibility. I don't want to take the risk. Li Jingming shook his head with a serious expression. From the first time he saw Ram Jia, he had always had this suspicion. His first impression was the strongest, so he definitely wouldn't change his mind easily. Although Lin Yi didn't believe it, he couldn't help but think of Ram Jia's sudden appearance in the Li family villa and the law enforcement hall's protection of the Zhou family. Could Ram Jia really be that masked man in black? Have you investigated Ram Jia's strength back then? Lin Yi suddenly thought of this question. The Qiushui Villa incident was almost 20 years ago. At that time, Ram Jia was only in his early 20s. Although he was a genius that was rarely seen in hundreds of years, his strength might not be that shocking. The current Ram Jia could easily destroy the Qiushui Villa alone. However, 20 years ago, if he joined forces with Li Shuigao, he probably wouldn't be that powerful, right? Chapter 60-67. Lin Yi was speechless. Since Ram Jia already had the strength to destroy Qiushui Villa at that time, it was reasonable for him to become a suspect. Alright, since you've put it that way, we'll leave the disciplinary hall alone for now. We'll list Gong Yangjie as a suspect and investigate him in secret. Be careful not to arouse his suspicions. If it really was Gong Yangjie's doing, we don't have the strength to deal with him yet. Lin Yi was still a little skeptical, but he still warned Li Jingming seriously. With the strength that Ram Jia showed in the Li family's villa, even if Lin Yi used all his trump cards, he might not be able to defeat him. Especially for a genius like Ram Jia, who might have some research on divine senses, he must be prepared that divine sense skills like soul hook hand would not work. Boss Lin Yi, don't worry. I will never act rashly. This time I talk to you, boss, is to ask me what I should do. Should I take revenge on the Li family first, or to avoid alerting them and kill them together with the masked man in black later? As for the Zhou family, of course, Li Jingming would not let them go, but they were just peripheral accomplices, so he was not in a hurry to deal with them. Li Jingming, I want to apologize to you. Li Shuigao has been killed by me, and the cultivation of some masters of the Li family in the north has also been destroyed by me. I'm afraid you won't have the chance to take revenge on Li Shuigao yourself. But the Li family is still here. If you want to deal with them, you can go at any time. Lin Yi suddenly felt a little annoyed. He should have left a trace of Li Shuigao's spirit in his body. It would have been more meaningful to let Li Jingming kill him personally. Sure enough, when he heard that Li Shuigao was dead, Li Jingming was a little stunned and did not know how to react. For so many years, he thought about how to take revenge every day, but the traitor was actually dead? Boss, thank you for avenging me. That guy died in your hands, which is no different from me killing him myself. Unfortunately, it was too easy for him to die. Li Jingming sighed and then waved his hand in relief. Lin Yi killed Li Shuigao to save him, which could only be said to be too easy for the bastard traitor. He had prepared a lot of torture on the traitor. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Only he knew that Li Shuigao's death was not easy at all. The pain of soul searching was comparable to all kinds of torture in hell. This bastard lost the chance to reincarnate, but before he dissipated, he tasted all the punishments in hell. Since the Li family has lost all the masters, we should let them go for the time. Let we see if the black-masked man will come to take over the Li family or not. Li Yi smiled slightly. Only he. Li Jingming quickly adjusted his mood. Knowing that Li Shuigao was dead, he felt much more relaxed. He immediately began to think about his future plans. Okay, you can still investigate in secret. But now that your identity has been exposed, you must pay attention to your own safety. It's better to wait for senior brother Lu Bianren and the others to come back after finishing their tasks. It'll be better to act together. I'm going to leave the North Island for a while, so I can't do this with you. Lin Yi looked a little sorry. As Li Jingming's boss, he really should help him settle things in Qiushui Villa. Unfortunately, he really did not have that much time to stay here without any clues. Boss, just go and do your own things. I'll take care of this myself. Li Jingming hurriedly shook his head. Lin Yi had helped him too much, and this time he even saved his life. He really could not tie his boss Lin Yi to the North Island for his own matters. By the way, boss Lin Yi, this time I found some clues in the ruins of the old site of Qiushui Villa. It's about the treasure. If you have time, I'd like to invite you to go with me. Li Jingming suddenly mentioned the treasure that led to the destruction of Qiushui Villa, which made Lin Yi feel a little surprised. Didn't Li Shuigao and the others take the treasure? Is there another one? Lin Yi was very confused. Li Shuigao must have gotten the real treasure. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to become a hero and build a powerful family with only 1/10 of the treasure. I'm not sure yet. The clue I got is that there are 2 layers of the treasure. What Li Shuigao and the others took out is probably only the first layer. Because it's already been opened, no one will explore that place again. If we go there now, we might be able to find the second layer of the treasure. Li Jingming looked a little excited. Li Shuigao only got a small part of the first layer of the treasure, and he could soar to the sky. If they could really find the second layer of the treasure, wouldn't it be very easy to rebuild Qiushui Villa? Aren't you worried that the second layer has actually been opened? Lin Yi didn't care too much about this news. The possibility of Li Shuigao and the others only opening the first layer was very small. If they went there now, they would most likely find nothing. That's possible, but I still want to take a gamble. The clue I got mentioned that there's a treasure map that is only used to open the first layer of the treasure. If I'm not wrong, it should be the map that Li Shuigao, that traitor, took from my family. In a situation where they obtained all the treasures on the first layer and didn't know about the existence of the second layer, the possibility of them opening the second layer is very small. Li Jingming wasn't so much trying to convince Lin Yi as he was trying to convince himself. In fact, he could go alone. He said it now because he wanted to repay Lin Yi. If they really found the second layer of the treasure, more than half of it would belong to Lin Yi. Lin Yi just thought for a while and understood why Li Jingming didn't say it out loud. He estimated that the second layer of the treasure should not be dangerous. Otherwise, when Li Jingming mentioned it, he wouldn't have such an expression. I really want to go with you, but there's no other way. I have to go back to the Middle Island immediately and then go to the South Land. When I return to the North Island, it will take at least a few months. If there's no danger, you'd better explore it by yourself. If you find the treasure, try to improve your strength as soon as possible. Although Lin Yi didn't say it explicitly, what he meant was that even if the treasure was still there, it belonged to Qiushui Villa. He wouldn't interfere in it. Since Li Jingming had the opportunity to get it, he had to make good use of it. Chapter 60-68. Li Jingming was silent for a moment. Since Lin Yi had no time to hunt for treasures, he could only go alone. However, he had already made a decision in his heart. If he could really find the second layer of treasures, he would definitely pick out the good stuff and leave a share for Lin Yi. I understand. Boss, don't worry. I will take care of this matter. Li Jingming nodded and promised. That was the end of the matter about the treasures. I have said almost everything that needs to be said. I also have to prepare to leave for Middle Island. If you have any difficulties, you can go directly to Soaring Sky Pavilion to find Shengguan Laner. She will help you solve it. Remember, no matter what you do, you must ensure your own safety. Everything else is not important. Do you understand? Lin Yi solemnly urged Li Jingming. In fact, he wanted Li Jingming to solve the obvious threats first, so that it would be safer. Unfortunately, Li Jingming wanted to keep the Li and Zhou families as bait to catch the mastermind behind them. In this regard, Lin Yi could not express any opinions. He could only ask him to take care of himself. If there was any difficulty, he could find Shengguan Laner. Most of it could be solved. For the sake of Lin Yi, even if Lan could not solve it, Shengguan Tianhua and Zhang Jingmiao behind her would definitely be able to solve it. At least, they could avoid many dangers like this time. Li Jingming was moved. He nodded hard to show that he understood and would definitely do as Lin Yi said. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to leave Hao Zili and Min Huichen to protect Li Jingming. However, he was not very assured about the loyalty of these two guys. If they really found the treasures and there was some advanced antidote in it, these two guys would definitely change sides. Then, Li Jingming would be in danger. Moreover, having such two bodyguards around was not good for Li Jingming's growth. Only in a difficult situation, a person would quickly become stronger, so in the end, Lin Yi gave up this idea. Well, you take care of yourself. I have to go to Middle Island immediately. When I come back, I hope to see you stronger. Lin Yi reached out and patted Li Jingming's shoulder. Before leaving, Lin Yi left behind a storage bag. Inside were some elixirs and millions of spirit jade cards. These were not for Li Jingming alone. The others who were not here had a share. With these resources, it was enough to ensure that they could increase their strength quickly. Li Jingming was not polite with Lin Yi. His life was saved by Lin Yi. These resources were nothing. In the future, when he became stronger, he could use all means to repay this boss. After saying goodbye to Li Jingming, Lin Yi took Languza directly to the beach. Hao Zili and Min Huichen were obedient and stayed here. The main body of the flying spirit beast was a huge eagle. Now, it had also transformed into a human form. It turned into a handsome young man. At first glance, Lin Yi almost couldn't remember who this person was. "Boss, are we going to sit on that guy's back and fly to Middle Island?" Languza looked at the young man who was transformed by the flying spirit beast with disgust. As a dignified sea beast king, he really didn't want to mix with flying spirit beasts. Especially this guy looked very unpleasant to the eye. In the eyes of Languza, except for his boss, Lin Yi, any handsome man was extremely unpleasant to the eye. Although he believed that no one in the world was more handsome than him except his boss, he would still instinctively reject this kind of person. They are too slow. Let's go to Middle Island by flying saucer. Lin Yi replied casually. He didn't think that the focus of Languza's words was not how to go to Middle Island. Languza was instantly elated. He raised his chin and said to Hao Zili and the other two, "We're going to the Middle Island. If you guys want to follow us, then hurry up and fly first. When we reach the Middle Island, just ask anyone and you'll know where boss is." This guy didn't want the three of them to sit on the flying saucer with him at all. Anyway, flying spirit beasts were used for traveling. He would let them fly slowly to Middle Island. "Boss Lin, aren't we going together?" Hao Zili asked with some apprehension. He even changed the way he addressed Lin Yi to boss like Languza did. Originally, Hao Zili thought that he would be a little embarrassed. But strangely, when he called Lin Yi boss, it didn't feel strange at all. It was as if he should call him that. "Boss Lin, we want to follow you wholeheartedly. Don't leave us behind." Min Huichen also hurriedly went forward with a smile. She pulled the young man who was transformed by the giant eagle and introduced him to Lin Yi. "This is Fei Yi. Fei Yi, quickly greet Boss Lin." Fei Yi greets Boss Lin. This flying spirit beast transformed young man, Fei Yi, was a little shy. He cupped his fists and bowed respectfully. His speech was a little choppy. He should be the type who didn't like to talk much. He was completely different from Languza. "You guys come with us. My flying tool is enough to take all of you." Lin Yi smiled and comforted them. Anyway, the space in the flying saucer was big enough. It didn't matter if there were a few more of them. Hao Zili and the other two were immediately delighted. They were most afraid of being separated from Lin Yi. If the poison suddenly acted up, wouldn't they die unjustly? Moreover, only by following Lin Yi could they get the opportunity to perform and strive to get out of the abyss of suffering as soon as possible. Regarding this matter, the three of them had already discussed and reached an agreement. Seeing that Lin Yi had already decided, Languza naturally wouldn't continue to object. However, he still had something to say. "Since you guys have already recognized me as your boss, then you have to understand the rules. First of all, you have to make this first come, first served clear. From now on, you have to call me Brother Lon. Do you hear me?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be amused. This guy was quite troublesome now. Why didn't he ask Chen Dongcheng and the others to call him Brother Lon in the past? Was it because Fei Yi was more handsome? Hao Zili and the other two were also convinced by Languza. Even if the three of them joined forces, they might not be a match for Languza. So what if they called him Brother Lon? Brother Lon. The three of them didn't say anything else. They all pretended to be respectful and shouted, which made Languza very satisfied. "All right, if you have anything to say, let's talk when we arrive at the Middle Island. We'll set off immediately." Lin Yi didn't want to waste any more time. After taking out the flying saucer and activating it, he led everyone into the inner cabin. Hao Zili and the others were amazed. This was the first time they had seen this kind of flying tool. Whether it was the exterior or the interior, it had a metallic texture. It was completely different from the flying tools in the East Continent. Chapter 60-69. How Zili and others had been lucky enough to see flying tools before. Most of them were in the shape of spaceships or flying cars, and the interior was very ordinary. It was incomparable to Lin Yi's flying saucer with a 360-degree panoramic monitoring screen. After seeing this flying saucer, Hao Zili and others were more in awe of Lin Yi. They even felt that it was not a bad thing to follow Lin Yi wholeheartedly. When Lin Yi left the North Island, the Okuda Dam fleet was on the way to the North Island. If Lin Yi could stay on the North Island for a day or two, he might be able to go to the Middle Island with them. Without Lin Yi on the ship, Kai Zhongyang, Ho Guanqi, and others hardly went out. On the contrary, those who didn't get along with Lin Yi were very active, such as the Jing family, Wei Jiating, and so on. On the deck of the ancient battleship, Wei Jiating, who had just attended a small trade fair, saw Hong Zhong alone. He immediately stepped forward and said proudly, "Hong Zhong, you went to the far North Island this time, but you didn't buy anything useful. I really don't know how you became the shopkeeper of the North Island. It's a waste of the Chamber of Commerce's resources. When I return to the Middle Island, I will definitely impeach you, a person who doesn't do anything without doing anything. Do whatever you want. Now get out of my way. I don't want to see people like you." Hong Zhong didn't show any kindness to him, and his eyes showed undisguised contempt. Wei Jiating opposed Hong Zhong in public, which damaged the reputation of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Then he was humiliated by Hong Zhong and asked to leave. The two basically fell out, so there was no need to pretend to be polite. Wei Jiating was a little stunned. Hong Zhong's strength made him a little afraid. If there was a conflict, although he had 2 guards on his side, he had no confidence to deal with Hong Zhong. "Hong Zhong, don't be too arrogant. Is the ancient battleship your family? I like to be here. What can you do to me?" Wei Jiating said stubbornly. In fact, people with discerning eyes could see that this guy was just a wolf in sheep's clothing. If Hong Zhong stared at him, he would immediately shrink back. Hong Zhong glanced at Wei Jiating with disdain. It was really shameful to argue with such a person. So he just snorted and turned to look at the sea, ignoring Wei Jiating. Wei Jiating secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but he didn't dare to continue to provoke him. He laughed out loud twice and said that he would wait for him in the Middle Island. Then, he turned around and left with his guards. Not far away, Zheng Tianqing saw this scene and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. Then he chuckled and followed Wei Jiating into the cabin area. Then he quickly caught up with Wei Jiating and whispered a few words in his ear. Wei Jiating paused for a second before smiling. He pulled Zheng Tianqing's arm into his room and started talking in private. As for what they talked about, whether it was directed at Lin Yi or Hong Zhong, or both of them at the same time, no one knew. Controlling the flying saucer, Lin Yi naturally didn't know what was happening on the ancient battleship. All his attention was on Han Jingjing, and he didn't know whether the spirit-gathering branch he had painstakingly obtained would work or not. The closer they got to the Middle Island, the more nervous Lin Yi became. If the spirit-gathering branch couldn't save Han Jingjing, what should he do? This flying tool is so powerful. It's at least 2 to 3 times faster than me. If I use it to return to the East Continent, I can get there in a few days. Fei Yi was extremely excited. A flying tool that was faster than him was definitely a rare treasure. Therefore, he began to take the initiative to speak and forgot his shyness. "Don't be surprised. You don't know how powerful the boss is. Follow the boss, and you'll benefit in the future." Languza glanced at Fei Yi with disdain, but he was secretly happy. It seemed that being the boss of a follower was not bad. It seemed that he had to ask the boss to take more followers in the future. Fei Yi immediately became shy again. He bowed slightly to Languza and fell silent again. Brother Lan is very knowledgeable. Please take care of us in the future. May I know where Boss Lin bought this flying tool? If it's possible, I want to buy one too. Hao Zili hurriedly smiled and asked about the origin of the flying saucer. He really wanted to buy it, but he didn't know how many spiritual jades it would cost for such a high-grade flying tool. Where did you buy it? Stop joking. This was personally refined by Boss. He's the only one in the world. Even if you have a spiritual jade mine, you can't buy it. Languza raised his head proudly. In order to create a glorious image of Boss Lin Yi, this guy directly gave Han Jingjing's credit to Lin Yi. Boss and sister-in-law were a family anyway, so what was the difference? Sure enough, Hao Zili and the others were shocked when they heard this. The way they looked at Lin Yi had completely changed. A mystic second-level alchemist, and also a blacksmith who could create such a high-grade flying tool. His strength was also so strong. This was simply against the heavens. Lin Yi was too lazy to explain. He didn't care if he had a halo or two on him, but it would be safer for Han Jingjing to hide in the dark, in case someone coveted her talent and did something dangerous. All of you, quiet down. Languza, if you have time, why don't you cultivate properly? Do you think that you're invincible now? Lin Yi controlled the flying saucer and said without turning his head. Although his tone was flat, several people in the cabin immediately shut up. Languza chuckled softly and took out a large piece of meat from his storage pouch. He cooked it briefly in the flying saucer's small kitchen and generously shared a little with his 3 little brothers. Then, he minded his own business and ate heartily. At a time like this, the person Languza was most grateful for was Han Jingjing. Only she would think of building a small kitchen in the flying saucer. If Lin Yi was the one who made the flying saucer, he wouldn't have made something so useless. For a foodie like him, just this point alone made Han Jingjing's flying saucer the best of all flying tools, even if it was higher level or faster. At first, Hao Zili and the others were still a little confused. Lin Yi let Languza cultivate, why did this guy make food? Moreover, the rough cooking method also made them very resistant. They were really afraid that this guy would suddenly become hostile, so they didn't dare to refuse. When they tasted the first bite, they basically opened their mouths with the feeling of eating poison, but after they really ate it, they understood why Languza made food. Chapter 60-70. Especially Fei Yi, who was transformed from a flying spirit beast. Although the effect of eating sea beast's meat was not as good as that of Languza, it was not much worse. On the other hand, Hao Zili and Min Huichen could not say that it was a waste, but the energy that humans could absorb in this way was too little. It was not even 1% of what Languza could absorb. Even so, the two of them still felt that a piece of meat was enough to match their training time for 2 hours. After all, Languza was using the meat of an earth-opening stage sea beast. At first, they thought that it was no different from eating poison. However, the 3 of them immediately devoured their portions in unison. Then, they looked at Languza eagerly, hoping that this fellow would share more with them. Unfortunately, in front of them was the foodie Languza. Sharing a little was enough to make him feel distressed for a long time. Want more? Humph, dream on. Under the gaze of the 3 people, Languza ate the big piece of meat at a speed 10 times faster than the speed of the wind, not giving them a chance to speak. In terms of eating speed, Hao Zili and the other 2 added together with Langu Zhabi still only had a fighting strength of 5. After he had finished eating, Languza even glanced at the 3 people who were dumbfounded. Then, he sat down and began to refine the meat. He had only eaten normal food for fun and to satisfy his appetite. It did not matter how much he ate. However, he had to refine and absorb the meat of an Earth expansion stage sea beast properly. Hao Zili and the other 2 looked at each other and could only sit down. In any case, the food that they had just eaten was still very good for their training. Time and training was the most worthless. When they opened their eyes again, Lin Yi had already controlled the flying saucer to fly to the sea near Middle Island. In the distant sea level, there was a faint black dot, which was Middle Island. With the speed of the flying saucer, they could reach it in 1 or 2 minutes. We are almost there. Everyone get ready. Lin Yi turned to look at Fei Yi. I will put away the flying saucer in a while. At that time, you will change back to your original body and take us to Middle Island. Is that okay? No problem. Don't worry, Boss Lin. Fei Yi quickly stood up and nodded shyly. Now, he felt that it was really good to follow Lin Yi. He could even take out the flesh of an earth-opening realm sea beast as food. It could be seen that Lin Yi was very powerful. Therefore, Fei Yi was quite happy to have a chance to perform. Hao Zili and the others understood that Lin Yi did not want to expose the existence of the flying saucer, lest others covet it. In fact, in their opinion, Lin Yi was a little too cautious. Middle Island was not like East Continent. Apart from those old monsters who lived in seclusion, others might not be strong enough to rob Lin Yi. But since Lin Yi had already made up his mind, they naturally wouldn't say anything. They didn't want to make Lin Yi unhappy, and the day of detoxification would be even longer. The outline of Middle Island was already revealed. Lin Yi stopped the flying saucer high in the sky and opened the hatch to let Fei Yi go out first. He transformed into his original body of mountain eagle and flew below the flying saucer. The rest of them landed on Fei Yi's back one by one. Lin Yi was the last to come out. He put away the flying saucer. After he sat down, Fei Yi spread his wings and flew towards Middle Island. After a while, Fei Yi landed in the outer area of Middle Island. Except for the sea beasts, there were no restrictions on other races, so no one would care about them. Only when they entered the central area would they be strictly interrogated. Strangers would also be secretly monitored. However, Lin Yi was also a person of status in Middle Island. Naturally, he would not be troubled in this aspect. Because he was the one who brought them here, Languza and the others were not interrogated. However, if they caused trouble in Middle Island in the future, the people of Middle Island would still look for Lin Yi. As soon as he arrived at Tiandan Pavilion, Tianchan and Sydney had already come out to greet him. He didn't know where they got the news, but it seemed that they were not completely useless in the past few years in Middle Island. Lin Yi, you're back. Did you buy the Spirit Gathering branch? Tianchan didn't have time to exchange pleasantries and asked directly. Of course, otherwise why would I come back first? Lin Yi smiled faintly and nodded to the two as a greeting. Hello, sisters-in-law. Languza stepped forward and greeted with his fists. This guy was used to Lin Yi's female confidants popping up from time to time. Anyway, it was definitely right to call them sisters-in-law when he saw them. Last time when Lin Yi returned to Middle Island, he didn't let Languza come out and directly put him in the sea. Therefore, this was the first time he saw Tianchan and Lin Yi. Hao Zili and the others followed suit and quickly greeted with their fists. Tianchan and Sydney both blushed, but no one had any intention of denying it. These are my new underlings. You guys can get to know them later. How is Jingjing? Have there been any changes? Lin Yi was not in the mood to introduce them one by one. Now he was most concerned about Han Jingjing. If her situation worsened, it would be troublesome. No, Jingjing is still the same. She is exactly the same as when you went to the secular world. It seems that she is still in the secular world and hasn't returned. She doesn't seem to have encountered any danger for the time being. Tianchan nodded slightly to Languza and the others and quickly answered Lin Yi's question. Then, she turned around and led him to the second floor. That's good. Lin Yi was also slightly relieved. He turned to Languza and instructed, Languza, take them to walk around nearby. I'll come find you guys when I'm done. Yes, boss. Languza agreed readily. He really wanted to see Han Jingjing. After all, he already knew her in the secular world. However, Boss seemed to not want Hao Zili and the others to see Han Jingjing. As the number one underling of Boss, of course, he could understand Boss's intentions. Hao Zili and the others had no objections. After bidding farewell to Lin Yi and the others, they followed Languza out. Lin Yi led Tian Chan and Sydney up to Han Jingjing's room on the second floor. She was exactly the same as before. There was no change at all. Although this wasn't a good thing, it was at least not a bad thing. Lin Yi quickly walked forward and placed the soul-gathering branch in Han Jingjing's hand. Then, he began to pray in secret, hoping that the soul-gathering branch would be effective. After the soul-gathering branch was placed in Han Jingjing's hand, it began to faintly circulate. Gradually, the light spread to her body and enveloped her entire body. Lin Yi's anticipation grew. The soul-gathering branch's situation should be working. However, he did not know if Han Jingjing's essence soul would return to her body because of this. Chapter 60-71. The three of them just stared dumbly at Han Jingjing for an hour, not moving at all during that time. It was a pity that Han Jingjing's body didn't change at all other than that faint layer of light. It seems that the God-gathering branch can't bring Jingjing back. Lin Yi sighed and couldn't hide the slight disappointment on his face. It wasn't easy to get the God-gathering branch this time, so he had great expectations. Lin Yi, don't worry too much. Maybe the God-gathering branch has already taken effect, but it will take a few days or even a few months to bring Jingjing back. It's too early to make a conclusion now. Tian Chan also felt a little regretful, but she quickly composed herself and began to comfort Lin Yi. Yes, Lin Yi, Jingjing will be fine. The God-gathering branch has already taken effect on her, but it will take a little longer. Let's wait patiently. Maybe Jingjing will wake up tomorrow? Sydney also gently comforted Lin Yi. Like Tian Chan, she was very grateful that Han Jingjing could go to the secular world to save Lin Yi, so she sincerely hoped that the God-gathering branch could bring Han Jingjing back. But in the current situation, in order not to let Lin Yi be too disappointed, the two of them could only try their best to hide the regret in their hearts. You're right. Maybe it's not time yet. Let's wait for a few more days. Lin Yi smiled slightly and could only use this reason to convince himself. Originally, he planned to set off for the South Continent as soon as possible after using the God-gathering branch to wake Han Jingjing up. But now he was worried and had to wait for a few more days to see what would happen. In the northernmost island, the God-gathering branch had caused a commotion. Hao Zili and others chased after Lin Yi to get it, but they were counterattacked by Lin Yi. If people knew that Lin Yi left the God-gathering branch in the Tiandan Pavilion, he couldn't guarantee that no one would attack the Tiandan Pavilion when he was not there. In the next few days, Lin Yi stayed in Han Jingjing's room to see if there was any change in her. He also refined some elixirs for the Tiandan Pavilion to continue selling. As for Languza and others, they were familiar with Tian Chan and Sydney and helped them. But except for Languza, no one was allowed to go to the second floor to see Lin Yi. Seeing that there was no change in Han Jingjing after a few days, Lin Yi inevitably felt a little anxious. Although the God-gathering branch was precious, it seemed to have no effect on Han Jingjing's condition at present. If he continued to wait, the hope was quite slim. In fact, Lin Yi felt very guilty. He shouldn't have let Han Jingjing return to the Heaven Stage Island on her own. He knew that she used a deceptive method to come to the secular world. When she returned, he should have let her directly enter the space of the Jade Pendant. Although there might be problems with the integration after returning to the Heaven Stage Island, it was countless times safer than the current situation. Tian Chan, is there any reply from the secular world from the Central Chamber of Commerce? Lin Yi was annoyed. When he saw Tian Chan come up, he couldn't help but ask again. He had asked this question 4 or 5 times in the past few days. As long as he could receive a reply from the secular world, he might be able to know the news of Han Jingjing. If she really stayed in the secular world and couldn't come back, Lin Yi would find time to return to the secular world and directly use the space of the Jade Pendant to bring her to the Heaven Stage Island. No, these days I asked Min Huichen to go to the Central Chamber of Commerce 3 times a day to ask for a reply from the secular world. Unfortunately, they haven't received it. Maybe Lai Changyi is still investigating this matter and can't give the exact news for a while. Tian Chan pretended to be indifferent to comfort Lin Yi. In fact, she was a little uncertain in her heart. People from the secular world needed time to investigate, which meant that Han Jingjing didn't stay in the villa, which was really not good news. Lin Yi became more and more annoyed. He should have set off to the South Continent, but he couldn't go to the South Continent to do things without definite news about Han Jingjing. Is that bastard Kang Xiaoming purposely stalling for time so that we don't get our reply? No, I have to go to the Central Chamber of Commerce in person. Lin Yi decided to go to Kang Mingming personally to pressure him, but he also knew that the possibility was not high. With Zhong Pingliang watching from above, it wouldn't be easy for Kang Mingming to secretly detain the reply to Lin Yi from the secular world. Lin Yi's main purpose of going to the Central Chamber of Commerce this time was to ask Zhong Pingliang to find a way to find out about the situation in the secular world. Maybe he would have more detailed information. Tian Chan didn't have any opinion on this and nodded in agreement. Go. Jingjing will be fine with us taking care of her. Lin Yi, I need your help. As they were talking, the Will of Heaven quickly came up from the stairs. Seeing Lin Yi coming out of the room, he immediately waved his hand to greet him. Tiandan Pavilion had always been taken care of by the Will of Heaven, so there were no restrictions on him. He could come and go at any time. Tian bro, if there's anything you need, just tell me. As long as I can help, I won't say no. Lin Yi was still very respectful towards Tianqing, so he agreed without hesitation. As for going to the Central Chamber of Commerce, he could only put it off for now. If Zhong Pingliang had any news, he would find a way to inform him immediately. How's Jingjing? Is she getting better? The Will of Heaven didn't directly state the purpose of his visit. Instead, he asked about Han Jingjing's situation. In fact, he came to visit Han Jingjing when he was free. He more or less understood that the effect of the spirit concentrating branch wasn't as good as he imagined. There's no change. Lin Yi sighed softly and approached the Will of Heaven. Brother Tian, what do you need my help with? Well, I shouldn't have come to you at this time, but only you can help me with this. It's about the creation battle art. The Will of Heaven didn't hide anything and directly stated his purpose of visit. What's wrong with the creation battle art? Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Did the Will of Heaven have a problem practicing the creation battle art? I found the clues to the follow-up of the creation battle art. However, that place requires at least 2 people who have practiced the creation battle art to enter. So, I can only ask for your help. In the entire Heavenly Island, I really can't find a second person besides you. The Will of Heaven was also helpless. It could be said that he had been looking for the follow-up of the creation battle art his whole life. Finally, he had a clue, but he found that he couldn't enter alone. This kind of depression couldn't be described easily. Chapter 60-72. In other words, if he could not find the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art, he would only be able to reach this level for the rest of his life. The follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art? Where is it? Lin Yi was slightly startled. This matter could not be delayed. Although the follow-up mental cultivation method of the original version of the creation battle art was not very useful to him, it was completely different to the Will of Heaven. It's on a nameless deserted island in the sea near the Middle Island. If everything goes well, we can come back in a day or 2. The Will of Heaven knew that Lin Yi agreed to help, so he was a little excited. Lin Yi did not know why the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art would be on a nameless deserted island, but it did not matter as long as it was true. With the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art, Lin Yi could also verify it with the heaven-seizing battle art. Maybe he could make more discoveries. In that case, let's not delay. Let's go and come back early. Lin Yi immediately made a decision. It was only a day or two, so it should not affect them. At the Tiandan Pavilion, Languza and the other 3 masters at the mountain opening stage would be safe for a short time. Lin Yi even left the 4 of them here to protect Han Jingjing and the God-gathering branch when he was considering going to the South Continent. Languza, Brother Tian and I will go out for a day or 2. Take the 3 of them to protect the Tiandan Pavilion. If anyone dares to cause trouble, don't hold back. Lin Yi saw Languza when he went downstairs, so he immediately called him over and whispered to him. Languza nodded and patted his chest hard. Boss, don't worry. There will be no problem here. But boss, where are you going this time? Do you need to fight? Do you want me to go with you? No, you just need to do what I say. Lin Yi smiled faintly. After being idle for a few days, this guy was probably itching to fight again. Unfortunately, there really wasn't any chance for him to fight this time. He just needed to go to the island and find something. After giving a few instructions, Lin Yi followed the will of heaven out of the Tiandan Pavilion. As one of the deputy island masters of Middle Island, the will of heaven had the privilege of using flying spirit beasts at any place. Therefore, there were 2 flying spirit beasts raised by Middle Island officials waiting at the entrance, which saved Lin Yi the trouble of using the flying saucer. The 2 of them immediately rode on their flying spirit beasts and soared into the sky, flying towards the deserted island that the will of heaven had mentioned. The Middle Island's waters were extremely vast. With the speed of the flying spirit beasts, after traveling for half a day, they were still at the core of the Middle Island's waters. There were countless large and small deserted islands scattered on the surface of the sea. When the tide rose, at least half of them would sink into the sea and become submerged reefs. Only when the tide fell would the islands appear. It's there. The will of heaven on the flying spirit beast pointed to a deserted island in the distance. It was now the tide fell. The deserted island he was talking about was only about 1 square kilometer in size. The slope was very low, and it was likely to sink into the sea when the tide rose. Lin Yi nodded and extended his divine sense to carefully search every inch of the deserted island. If not for the guidance of the will of heaven, he would never pay attention to this kind of small island that could be seen everywhere in the sea. Brother Heaven, how did you find this place? Lin Yi didn't ask about this along the way. He was only thinking about how to bring Han Jingjing back to Heavenly Island. Only now did he remember that he should ask about the situation. It's also a coincidence. Recently, when I was wandering around the market, I actually found an incomplete ancient book. It mentioned a genius about 10,000 years ago who was also famous for cultivating the creation battle art. Then, in order to advance to the Earth opening stage, he came to a deserted island in this sea for seclusion. He may have left the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art. The will of heaven didn't hide anything and told Lin Yi the source of the information. Lin Yi was speechless. This kind of vague record, but the will of heaven could treat it as real. It showed how urgent his desire for the creation battle art was. He was simply not willing to let go of any possibility. This time, he really found the exact location. This sea was so vast, and there were at least 800 islands of different sizes, not including the small islands that had not surfaced for 10,000 years. The will of heaven spent a lot of effort to find this deserted island. Lin Yi could totally imagine how much effort it took for him to find this deserted island. So, Brother Heaven, you can't be sure that this island will have the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art? Lin Yi sighed softly. The will of heaven might have found the place where the genius from 10,000 years ago went into seclusion, but that person might not have left the mental cultivation method behind. No, I think there's a 90% chance that it's true. That's because the ancient book had mentioned that ever since that genius came here to undergo closed-door training, he never appeared again. It's very likely that he failed his advancement and died in the closed-door training grounds. Therefore, his mental cultivation method must have been left there. Tian Xing spoke with certainty. At the same time, he had already controlled the flying spiritual beast to descend. After a while, the two arrived above the deserted island. Lin Yi's divine sense vaguely found traces of a concealment array on this island. The level was not low. It was at least arranged by an Earth rank array master above level 7. Usually, if Lin Yi didn't pay attention, he wouldn't have found it at all. This was because the concealment array had been damaged. If it was in good condition, it would never be exposed unless the ghost personally used divine sense to explore it. In that case, the possibility of the follow-up mental cultivation method of the creation battle art is very high. Since that person could advance to the Earth opening stage, at least it is more complete than the one in our hands. But if he failed to advance and fell, this mental cultivation method might still have flaws. Lin Yi jumped off the flying spirit beast and stood beside the will of heaven. The flaws of the creation battle art didn't matter to Lin Yi, but the will of heaven had to be careful when practicing it. The next time something happened, he might not be able to stay alive. Let's not talk about this first. As long as we can find the follow-up cultivation method, what's a trivial flaw? The will of heaven laughed and didn't care about it. Lin Yi smiled slightly and immediately felt relieved. If the will of heaven was really afraid of the flaws of the creation battle art, he wouldn't have chosen to practice this mental cultivation method in the first place. It was because of his heroic character that he was very compatible with the creation battle art. If it was someone else who was cautious and indecisive, there was no way for him to practice the creation battle art. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.